And we are with the fine election of a Venus day and a Saturn hour, being audacious. Ascendant in my sixth house, separating from a conjunction with Lilith, descendant separating from the Pluto thingy. Now, 6 degrees into Aquarius. Ruler of the ascendant is the Sun in Aquarius, separating from a square to Uranus. Sun trines Moon applying to trine Sun. Moon is in Libra. Venus ruled with Venus in Pisces. And this non elected election will accompany the point of view from which I look at the full moon in Pisces. And why did I not wait to Jupiter hour? The first thing, because I am a raw person that likes to do things on the spot, and I just wanted to record the full moon in Pisces. The second thing, Saturn is approaching Pisces. And Pisces is known to be Jupiterian ruled, very expansive, very um, optimistic, at times dreamy, and Saturn is a reality check. So, what I predict for this point of view is that it will give us a more realistic assessment of the full moon in Pisces, which I will soon approach. This is why I always do this chart. It's the point of reference. Um, I've talked about the month of February being served as a happy, easy-go-lucky month, and in many ways, the energy is straight, all the planets are direct, and so on and so forth. So there's reasoning to that. It's not unfounded to say February is quite a flowy month. That being said, you think about it as the neck of the bottle that you unscrew the bottle and then there's a lot of fizz going out. Think about opening a champagne bottle. So it's a celebration, but there's a lot of fizz going out. And some of that fizz we've seen today, I addressed it in my Pamela Anderson Spirit of Matter post concerning the whole sign houses, and we've seen that in the astrological community. But hey, outside of astrology, astrological community, things are happening. And so the month of February is also the month where Aries is applying to square Pluto. That's still ongoing. That's still happening. We can't ignore that. Where Lilith is separating from an opposition to Pluto. And those and you know, Saturn is about to enter Pisces, then Pluto is about to enter Aquarius. We can't really say it's an easy month. Okay, we had the full moon with one of the most tremendous earthquakes we had in recent years in the Syria-Turkey region. We also felt that, a lot of people felt that in Israel. I was spared, but if I would have been at my parents' house, I would have felt it too. Not to the extent of being life endangered, but hey, that's difficult. And that was with the full moon in Leo, T squaring with Uranus, the resolution of the T square in Scorpio, Mars in Gemini, and indeed the earthquake happened on sidereal Scorpio, which is interesting, and that is something I did not delve deeper into. But definitely Uranus in a T square with the Sun and the Moon can, and on a full moon, can give us an earthquake with Uranus in Taurus. Okay, the land is, the earth is shaking, literally. Now, let's go to the full moon in Pisces. So the promise of the full moon in Pisces, I'm going to keep that and then do it in another. So Astro Tools, I'm using AstroSeek, which I find a beautiful source. It's a free source. You can just go to astroseek.com, and it's like the Wikipedia of astrology. So if you are so inclined, then you can donate. Peter, who is running this site and doing such a marvelous job that allows us to do all these things. And some of us give readings, some of us even make money using these tools that are for free and allow you to study astrology for free. So let's talk about the new moon in Pisces. in depth. So I already did a video about the full moons and the new moons of 2023, and I did the forecast for February. This one is going to go zoom in on the new moon in Pisces from the perspective that I just analyzed. First degree of Pisces, Sun and Moon conjunction, which gives us, okay, Sun and Moon conjunction. This is full moon, new moon, pardon, new moon. Saturn already in 28 degrees Aquarius. So we have, if the full moon was conjuncting Pluto, okay, the new moon is conjuncting Saturn. And Saturn is about to go into Pisces. So just from looking at this chart, okay, and as you know me, Mercury in Aries, the minute I say something, it could be the most genius or the most stupid things on earth. I forget that I said that. So I'm looking at this chart like I'm looking at it the first time. The first thing that I see is that this new moon is conjuncting a Saturn that is about to enter the domain of where the moon is at. And so Saturn is getting a mediation, okay? The moon being a mediator between the other planets, the sun and Earth. And Saturn is getting this agent, okay, that delivers its energy through the realm of Pisces before it arrives in Pisces. And so this new moon gives us a glimpse. Okay, Saturn is an Aquarius, okay, but it gives us a glimpse of the energy of Pisces conjuncted with the energy of Saturn. Saturn is now in another sign, okay, in its home sign in Aquarius. Okay, but the conjunction between Saturn and the moon blends the energies. The moon is in Pisces, Saturn's in Aquarius, okay? But the energies of Saturn and the moon blend, okay? And so the energies of Aquarius and the moon blend through the energy, the blending of the energy of the moon and the sun and Saturn. Setting a new beginning in here is going to be particularly potent for the upcoming 3 years of Saturn ingressing into Pisces. Now what you're starting now is for up until the full moon, right? The 2 weeks. Yes, manifestation for the 2 weeks. Then manifestation for the coming 6 months in your Pisces house. I definitely want to get, as my first house, I definitely want to get my hair in shape. I want to get my nails in shape. And, tend to my skin, my bones. Why not? So good health, good nourishment, good nutrition, fitness, pampering or whatnot. But for you, it may be something different. In your Pisces house, you're having a new beginning. As you are manifesting, it's very good that we have already the conjunction of the energy of Saturn, because Saturn is very much involved with the seed that you're planting this new moon. And as the moon grows, okay, as the moon grows in Pisces, it will become almost visible, and then you can also take action, okay? But definitely something is seeded metaphorically before it's planted in the earth physically. And that new beginning already contains Saturn. What would you like to do with Saturn in Pisces in the upcoming 3 years? And I definitely, I did a prediction for Saturn in Pisces without looking at charts. Very much inspired by Patrick Watson, who said, I have something I thought about that no astrologer thought about, and that, prompted me to think about it. So I'm very much thankful for his inspiration. I have no idea if I said anything that he thought about. But I did an episode of my own, and this is the spirit of competition that is healthy, that is beautiful, that I like. So thank you very much, Patrick, for your inspiration. But this new moon, think, what would I like to do? Saturn arrives into Pisces, and I will go through Saturn in Pisces, it is a calling definitely to do an episode about Saturn in Pisces and look at the aspects that Saturn is going to make in Pisces. What do you want to do for the Saturn in Pisces? It's coming. Another teaching is by Victor Astrology. Okay, so if you've seen Victor on Lada's channel or outside of Lada's channel, he's also a great Hellenistic astrologer. And one of his teachings actually having a relationship course. So I don't know the details. You can go to Victor's channel or to Lada's channel. I'm not like receiving dividends from that. It's just something ongoing that I think in mind. And he's actually doing a relationship course, and one of his teachings, regardless, before that, was to look at where Saturn is now, and not just to do what Saturn is doing now. Okay, let's say your Aquarius house. Okay, not just do Saturn in Aquarius, not just manifest for Saturn. What do you want to do with it in Aquarius? But also look where it's going to go. If you see that Saturn is in Aquarius, it's going to go to Pisces. So try to think of what Saturn would like you to do in Pisces, and this is what Victor did. Okay, in his journey, he describes his weight loss journey, that where he had to work very hard physically and change his nutrition. And now he's look, you can see Victor before that transition, Victor after that transition. He's look like like a hot guy, right? Um, and that great teaching of, if Saturn is about to enter Pisces, already think what you want to do with Saturn in Aries. But this particular one, for the new moon, you can manifest what you want to do with Saturn in Pisces the next 3 years. Okay? And think of where Pisces is in your natal chart. You're gonna already get a glimpse of it with the upcoming new moon in the first degree of Pisces. And this new moon also applies to conjunct Fomalhaut. And Fomalhaut, I think it can actually be an election for Fomalhaut talisman. I am not an expert on astrological magic. I'm a student myself, and as you can see, this whole channel is me learning and teaching at the same time. So, sharing knowledge on the spot, applied practice. And so Fomalhaut is about the inner wisdom of the ocean. Okay, tropically, it's in Pisces. It's about the type of wisdom that permeates the energy between the words. Okay, for example, if you want to clear your name from slander, Fomalhaut can be a great talisman. And then you want to think, what do you want to do with that? Okay, and in magic, we want the moon to apply to hard aspect or to conjunct. If it's an asteroid, then we want the moon to conjunct. If it's a planet, or conjunct or hard aspect, I think hard aspect is favored, but yeah, there's a whole lot of whole lot of. Placidus, this is in the 12th house, so you might want to consider this. Whole sign houses, this is in the first house, but the new moon is going to last for a while, so it's not just, the ascendant. So you can play with the ascendant. Jupiter here is finely aspected in Aries, because the ruler of the ascendant is in Aries. That can be an election for Fomalhaut talisman. I don't know if the degree is enough to conjunct Fomalhaut, but it can if it is, it can very well bring an energy that you can use if you want to clear your name from slander, if you want to have the ability to articulate something, not like Spica, okay, Spica and Libra, but the ability to permeate the truth of the depth of the ocean. And I refer you to the Sphere and Sundry, any of the Sphere and Sundry Fomalhaut or the Christopher Warnock Fomalhaut talismans to read more about this planet. And so, definitely, if you want to have deeper wisdom, experience, a psychic experience, okay, psychically learn the truth. And this is where you would also want to use Deneb Algedi talismans that protect your boundaries, your energy boundaries, okay? There are a lot of things going on in the energy field. You want the good stuff. Um, and the sun is definitely can be related to your name. So, Moon Sun, you can have royal wisdom, wisdom into royalties, because Sun rules royalties, new beginning for royal figures, clearing the name of royal figures. Okay, think about, I don't remember who was it, Harry, Howard, I don't know their names. But it's funnily enough speaking about this composition, but one of these people, they can work with Fumalaw to clear their name from, if they are indeed on the right. If you are on the right, one way to okay, if you are on the right and you've been slandered, then you can clear a name from slander. If you're on the wrong and you've been slandered, then you can clear a name by taking accountability, and and by taking accountability, you can clear your name if it is genuine. Okay, if you've harmed someone, you say genuinely, I take accountability for that. Maybe you have the means to compensate them. Maybe you don't have the means to compensate. You say, I take accountability. I don't have the financial wealth to compensate you, but I definitely can say, I can acknowledge my part in your suffering. That is another way you can clear your name. Sun is royal figures, is leaders. So you can also tap into the wisdom of leadership. That is mythical, okay? That goes into the depth of the ocean and leads from the wisdom that is unperceived. Okay, you can show the invisible with this one. This is my prediction. Surely there are a lot of psychic perception and so on and so forth. So this can be an election for you, where you will do Fumalaw talismans, if you are a magician, or you can play with that. So yeah, I'm not the person to tell cautionary tales. For me, I was afraid of anything talismanic, and I said, but I promised to someone I was living with, I will not do astrological magic. And then I found out doing, I thought I was channeling essential oil blend, because I tried channeling with my aromatherapy, and then I got the voice, look at the chart, and the moon was on Algol. So that was the first talisman that I channeled. And of the first petition I ever wrote was to Algol. I have my Lotus Spirit from Algol, but that was really, it was like breaking, it was breaking my fear of delving into astrological magic by taking me to the heart of hearts of what most people are fiercely fearful to do, and see, look, you've done that now. Okay? Stop being afraid. You should be doing this. Okay. Um, so, so there are cautionary tales. I don't know to tell them, because I've been taken to the heart of hearts of what is the most, considered hardcore magic, and I was just taken there. So I'm not the person to turn to for what should I be careful from. But that you can turn to magician, you can turn to Chris Warnock, you can turn to Sphere and Sundry, and the people who studied with Sphere and Sundry, and a lot of magicians out there. Tony Mack, who's done the talismans. I know on a sidereal magical praxis there is Crasia Tassio, which I adore. So those are all sources, great sources to turn to. So that was just the first glimpse. The ruler. Well, the ruler of the moon is Jupiter. Neptune is in Pisces, 24 degrees Pisces, right on my friggin' ascendant, sextile in Pluto. Conjunction. Now, this is a conjunction with a lot of fortune. If you're born on this day, this would be a lot of fortune. So fated events would be tightly related to Neptune. Okay, for children born on this day. If you are pregnant and your child is born in this day, so a lot of fortune is in Pisces, applying to conjunct Neptune. Okay, this means that your baby's life might be endowed with Neptunian events. Okay, they can become a doctor, they can become a psychiatrist, they can become a very spiritual person, or even channeler. But there will be phases in their life that it's not up to them. Okay, it's up to fate. by the merit of the lot of fortune and by the merit of an outer planet. The nature of Neptune is dissolution of boundary between this world and other worlds. That can be shamanic experiences, that can be psychedelics, they can be channeling, and that can also be experiences that when I talked about Venus in Pisces, experiences that a person can be interpreted as helplessness. Okay, where they're asked to let go of control, there's nothing that they can do other than to go with the current of the ocean. Okay, so that can be a thing. But on a mundane level, I don't know how to interpret that. If you know how to interpret a lot of fortune, just going through the houses on a mundane astrology, I would love to learn from you. Venus is 29 degrees Pisces, conjunct in Neptune. Okay. And this is the last degrees of Venus in Pisces. She doesn't make an aspect to the moon only by being in the same sign. And she sextiles Pluto. It's an exact sextile. I love this sextile. Well, if you have hard aspects of Venus to Pluto, okay? But the difficulty, if you want to do talismanic work, is that Venus is not connected with the moon, and we usually need the moon to bring in Venus. But if you work on a Venus hour of this day, and you will need to see what is a Venus hour for you. You need to change this chart. Okay, take this chart, play with it, see if you can get a Venus ascendant, Venus ruled ascendant, okay? The Venus ruled ascendant, Venus hour. If I don't know if it's a Venus day, no, I don't know what day it is in your, you have to convert it to your location and see if the ascendant is well aspected. Then perhaps if you have, like me, hard aspect with Pluto and Venus, you can make a Venus talisman in Pisces and bring in the energy of Pluto. Okay, it won't be targeted by the moon, but it can be targeted by the ascendant and by the hour, and see if it works for you. Maybe you can bring in a Pluto sextile Venus into your life, and Pluto sextile Venus into your life would harmonize the energy that Pluto hard aspect in Venus can cause in your life. Okay, that can be something you can tap into, you can wear on yourself, and maybe those implications of Venus Pluto hard aspect will be softened in your life. Maybe not. I haven't tried this, so you can try this and tell me if it works for you. If you are practicing in magic, okay, there are many cautionary tales about magic, and I'm not like, please accept this disclaimer. I'm not encouraging you to try something that you haven't done before. If you, like, it's not like, hey, let's go take this psychedelic track and see what happens. No. If you are a practicing magician that has somebody to tell you the cautionary tales and to look at your work and to see if this is a good thing, if it's safe to try this, then I can bring a hypothesis. Okay. The traditional ruler of this new moon is Jupiter. Jupiter is in Aries, 9 degrees Aries, applying to conjunct Chiron. So, and sextile Mercury. Let's see if we have asteroids here. Asteroids. Okay. I want the degrees. Thank you. So, Jupiter is okay. Jupiter is opposing Ceres, and there is an opposition between Vesta and Ceres, and Jupiter is separating from conjunction with Vesta and opposing Ceres. Now, normally, that being said, we looked at Aries. Okay, you can look when my Aries episode will air, and it's airing in the near month. Then you can look at studies that I quote of people who studied Aries hard aspect in the moon, in Albert Einstein, in Copernicus, in so on and so forth. So revolutionary stuff. So hey, let's keep our minds open. And Jupiter is conjunct in Ceres, is a opposing Ceres, opposing Makmak. Both of these asteroids are retrograde. So Jupiter is doing stuff. Ceres. So the ruler of this new moon opposing Ceres. Okay, Jupiter's philosophies. Jupiter is can be spouses. Jupiter is teachers and gurus, and there can be teachings, gurus, philosophies, practices, policies guided by these practices. And Ceres has to do with, um, well, when I think about, well, Ceres is now in Libra, Venus ruled. So there are issues of parents or mothers and their children being taken from the mothers. And so the beliefs that the new moon brings in Aries, perhaps there is some new theories regarding that, or thinking that maybe we need to take children from their parents, and that could be on a mundane level. I don't see here an application to Saturn, so it's not necessarily legislative theories, stuff, discussions, philosophies, where Ceres is retrograde. So Ceres is reconsidering those themes of the meter, and the themes of caretaking for children and agriculture, okay, fertile land, fertility, bringing children, and the fear that the children will be taken away, the relation to the fertility of the land, okay, because the story of Ceres is being the mother of Persephone that was basically raped and kidnapped by Hades. And then she said, well, until my daughter does not come back, the land will not be fertile. And so she's also considered the bringer of the spring when Persephone comes back from the underworld. Ceres being retrograde. Also stuff to do with agriculture, okay, with fertility of the land. The coming of the spring. Okay, right now we're not yet at the spring, but thinking about bringing the spring. Aries is also barren land, forestation, and the relationship between mothers and children or parents and children. Okay, those are going to be accentuated. Other things I see here. Jupiter is hard aspect in Eros, and this follows, which I don't know what it means. A hard aspect in Pallas, I think. Or, yeah. And a plan to conjunct Chiron. So, with this new beginning, you would need to really consider your beliefs about starting something new ideology, new philosophy, new teaching. You're starting something new, and that something new has a conflict, has a contradiction with Eros and Saturn. Okay, it has a contradiction with some Saturnian form of erotic nature, maybe some traditional form of erotic nature. Maybe you're starting something to do with your erotic expression. Okay, Mars ruled Aries. It has it is at odds with something to do with fertility, relationship with children. There's some new beliefs that you're considering, and you need to be cautious about how seriously you take that belief and what adjustments do you make to accommodate for that series. Because if not, Jupiter is gonna run into Aries. Aries in Aries. Aries is right here, 24 degrees who very tightly conjunct to my Mercury, um, in Aries, and Aries is representative of the voices that were not represented. So if your beliefs do not accommodate for marginalized societies, the variety, the gross variety of marginalized societies, Jupiter is going to come to conjunct Aries. Okay, and even before that, we're going to have in April, 30 April, we're going to have eclipse with Rahu in the direction of Aries. Okay, already on the axis of Libra. Okay, the eclipse is on the axis of Libra, Aries, and that is going to profoundly change the way you see things or the way that you are seen. Okay, so with this new beginning, there is a new philosophy, there's a new belief. You come to believe something new, you come to start to learn something new, or to teach a new teaching, but you have to accommodate for marginalized societies, for single moms, for mothers whose children have been taken away from them, for people who are working the land and want to bring the land to fertility, for traditional forms of eroticism. All these things you need to account for in your philosophy. You need to make the adjustments. Okay, it's not impossible. It's a hard aspect that's calling you to 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 accommodate for these inconveniences to what you want to begin. If you manage to do that, you might actually incarnate some policies, some modes of action. Okay, Aries is action, that are beneficial for yourself and for humanity. Also think about where is your Aries house. Okay, it's the second house. I have to think about my skills, how I make my money, how I accommodate for people when I make my money. Okay, and so on and so forth. Um, and applying to conjunct Chiron. So there is a wound there, wounded healer, or certain types of alternative medicine. Okay, but this alternative medicine has to still accommodate. Chiron is direct. There can be a new beginning with the wound. Okay, not necessarily a new wound, but a new beginning, but something that is wounding, associated with this beginning. It can be a new beginning derived by the wound of Chiron, um, but there is something to be addressed here. Okay, there's an aspect of the sense of self, Chiron in Aries, Aries sense of self, Chiron wounding, a wounding around the sense of self that your beliefs have to address, and perhaps you're trying to do that. Okay, you're beginning to do that in this new moon. So I can give a personal example. I was creating some connections around my neighborhood, and somebody said, well, we definitely would want somebody to do, to give lectures and so on and so forth. And I was thinking about my current income and the great jump that I have to do in income, and I was thinking of how scary it is and what I've been through to get to where I am today, or to be acknowledged for the times that I was needing to be acknowledged, and how difficult it is to jump from this position where I had to go all this way to acknowledge things that I wouldn't do today, and to jump to the level of income that no stability is promised here, and then I might make more money. But if I need to rely on getting accommodation or welfare or whatnot, then the things that I went through in the past are not things that I'm willing to do, and I don't want to die. I don't want to. And there is no such thing as suicide. I addressed it today in the episode of Pamela Anderson, but I definitely would not want to be murdered, because I want to do something better for myself and for humanity, and not stay stuck in my life, in my income, and so on and so forth. So I don't want to do something that would risk my life. Okay. But for you, Aries can be something else. Maybe it's your seventh house, your relationships. And now you're thinking, I want to start this new relationship, but there is a certain wound or something about the sense of self that they have to accept. And I have to think about, how do I jump from not being accepted, not being acknowledged, to having that being addressed? Or do I want to show up with being exposing myself to the possibility that they would not accommodate to these part of my personality? That can be another facet of this. Other things to look at. New moon. Okay, this new moon is hard aspect in Sedna. So, Sedna magic. Previously, I talked about, okay, in just this episode, I did the Pamela Anderson episode, and she has Rao conjunct Sedna. Um, in June, Sedna is ingressing to Gemini, and here we have Sedna in 28 degrees Taurus. He's separating from a conjunction with Algol, where she's been during COVID. So thanks, I think, the astrology podcast for that. I don't remember exactly who said Sedna was. I think it was the astrology podcast. Okay, like if it was you and I didn't mention you, so my pardon, and write it in the comments so I can correct myself. Um, the Sedna was on Algol during COVID, and hard aspect from the moon to Sedna means that you can do um, Sedna work, but because this new moon conjuncts Saturn, and this is also a cautionary tale for the Fomalhaut election, because there is Saturn in this election very close by. It's not in Pisces, but it's conjunct in the moon, and the moon is conjunct in Fomalhaut, so we can be, we can bring in Saturn into this talisman by chance, and that might rule out the election for you. Okay, for me, for example, I think it rules out the election. If you want to try and do Sedna magic, okay, and try to protect yourself from betrayal, or from being left out in the cold or something like that, then the problem is that Sedna, the moon conjuncts Saturn, and that brings also the conjunction with Saturn. Okay, so there's a problem of making that into a magical election. Sedna squares Saturn. So Sedna can be betrayals. Square Saturn, I can't really, like, it really depends on the chart. But what I think about is Sedna is also the teaching of meridians. And you can go, well, I don't know if my Sedna episode, Study with Me Sedna, has already aired. If it has, you can go to this episode and you can see the research that I found, a book that I found. I don't remember the name of the writer. I think they were Nordic, that talked about Sedna's teaching of the entire cosmos as a meridian based system, and how Earth and the human body is meridian based, and how Sedna teaches us that. So if I think about that, then I think about perhaps even going back to the Yellow Caesar book of China. Traditional Chinese medicine is a very misleading term because there are so many practices. I would call it meridian-based medicine, and perhaps this is a teaching, an ancient teaching of Sedna that we can tap into. Now, if we talk about meridian-based medicine or holistic view of meridian-based, and the square to Saturn, so Saturn and Aquarius, that can be dogmatic science. Okay, there can be issues to meridian-based studies that are at odds with dogmatic science, and the moon just taps into that. It brings it into account. Okay, but if you want to tap into Sedna, my best suggestion would be to tap into meridian-based medicine, which I was also called in to do without knowing that Sedna is on Algol, as I was working with Algol. So yes, Sedna can bring betrayal. Magically, my hypothesis that she can protect from betrayal, but this is not a good election to do a talismanic work for that, because you have Saturn there, and then that, blocking Sedna from doing what you want. Alternatively, that Saturn could be protective, so you can maybe ask Saturn to protect from the betrayal aspect. I don't know. This is not a level of beginners, so I don't know how to do that. Um, but I can't ignore this new moon here. Hard aspect in the Sedna. Sedna is applying to trine Pluto. And Pluto is sextile in Venus, Pluto is sextile in Neptune. Pluto is hard aspect in Juno. Okay, not a tight orb, but it is a hard aspect. And Pluto is hard aspecting Humea in 0 degrees Scorpio. So I don't know to tell about Humea. If you know, perhaps you have more insight into that. Um, this tells me that this new moon in Pisces, which I already know people are going to present as this dreamy new beginning, it's not. Okay, which is why I'm doing. Notice where did I open? Let's go back and you see why do I do this every time I begin. Because if I was doing this on a Jupiter election, I seriously doubt that I would have caught what I caught when I did this. Okay, now it's a Jupiter hour, but I began this with Saturn hour where I'm at. So I began this with the Saturn hour, and I said I'm going to probably, my prediction is going to be a realistic view, a reality check on how we present the Pisces new moon. Because Pisces new moon is like, it's dreamy. You know, people with moon in Pisces, how much help they need to address their emotional upheavals going from the depth of the ocean to the top of the tsunami wave, emotionally, and how they're being perceived as weak, as helpless, as so many things that they are just who they are, but in society that is more ableistic, they're being accepted to function in a certain emotional way that is not accepted by society. And so what will be offered? Medicine, which of course interferes with the chi, with the life energy, with the central, with the current ebb and flow. And I can get them more crazy, that could get them even more depressed, I can get them to kill themselves. Okay? So Pisces new moon is not by merit of itself just this exalted dreamy new beginning. No. Um, and looking at it from the Saturn perspective, Saturn hour, it's like, hey, let's check this reality. What's the first thing I noticed? Here's the conjunction with Saturn. So you see that how the point of reference, okay, the state of the sky affected the very chart that I looked at. And now we are entering Jupiter hour. So let's see. Where the heck is... Here it is. Now we're entering Jupiter hour. Um, so, Setna, trining Pluto, but hard aspect in Saturn and the new moon. Um, the new moon trining Humea, I don't know what it means. Okay? Whatever you're starting here is fated. Okay? There's a fated new beginning. That you might experience, it might be tied into, in the most positive case, meridian based something. I know I'm going to do meridian based something here. Okay? Definitely we'll look at the meridian based medicine, maybe reflexology and the planets, how the planets, in the feet, because Pisces rules the feet. And that being said, they can be an experience of betrayal. That's just manifesting, okay, in your life. Um, Coming from the last phase, the last decan of Taurus, okay, if there's somebody who brings that into your synastry or composite, synastry mainly, if somebody has a sun around these degrees in Sedna, okay, and they're entering your life, who are they entering as? Okay, if somebody has a planet there and you're in a synastry with them, then they're going through stuff. Okay, you might betray them, they might betray you in a certain way. And that can be a part of what is just happening now, fatedly. Okay, on a mundane level, we're talking about the Taurus axis. Okay, I can't help but think, here's a story. I told you about the earthquake that happened in the full moon. And there were teams sent to, from all over the world, sent to rescue people. That's the good part. The difficult part is that they dedicated 3 days to saving people, and then they declared that there are 20,000 people dead, and that's that. They just stopped rescuing people. Okay? And this is today. But when I think about the Sedna experience on a mundane level, it's kind of like that. It's like they just stopped looking for the people who could be alive there and declared 20,000 people dead, and that's that. They saved whoever they could save, and they believe that they cannot save anymore. Okay? That's heart wrenching. And on a mundane level, when I think about, tourist world countries, they could be experiencing this sense of betrayal, this sense of abandonment, where, somebody stop. My concern for Ukraine is that, like, the world can say, okay, we've helped you only so much. That's that. Okay, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it's one of the things that can happen with this Sedna thing, because Ukraine is tourist world, and the possibility that there is a whole new beginning, and that is at odds, and there's just like the nations are starting new things, and now they're like, okay, we have allocated such and such resources for you, um, we're holding it back. That's that. It can be something like that. Some sense of betrayal, some maybe international agreement being revoked or being violated, something like that can happen on a mundane level. If it's on a personal level, then you need to look at the axis, at the fixed axis: Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo. Okay, and this new one is very much with Saturn, okay, in Aquarius. So, um, experiences of betrayal can come. My teaching to you is learn about the meridians, learn about the cosmos, learn about um, meridian based approaches to life, study them. Then you will find um, you will find help. You will be in the places where you're supposed to be on the planet. It's not necessarily an easy thing or easy experiences, but um, uh, you will be doing what you need to do. Okay, I'm not saying I'm not saying I can take the heartbreak from you, but I definitely say that coming to new studies is always good for the mind. Oxytocin is very much correlated with unstudying, which is when you study something new, you unlearn something, and then oxytocin is an agent in this process. So oxytocin is also an agent in the process of connection. Good connection gives us good learning experiences. Good learning experiences may induce good connections, okay, in your brain. So you want to think about the nervous system. You want to have new connections in the nervous system. The meridians can help you do that because you arouse different meridians, and then you can play with that. Okay, you just pay attention to that. Something is scratching. Okay, press and pamper and caress where it's scratching, instead of scratching it. There is some wound in your skin. I mean, with the Mars in Gemini, I had a lot of, my middle finger had this cut and that cut, and I put lavender here and I put lavender there, and I said I'm going to put lavender on all of my hand or body to give love to my body, and then I will just press this point or kiss this point and pay attention to how I feel, and so on and so forth. So this can be a way for you to incorporate the teachings of sadhana from a better perspective. So that can be helpful. Not saying necessarily remedial, but definitely helpful. Like, do also good things with sadhana. What's more? So this is the immediate, okay, And we're looking at the mutable axis that is Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Gemini. Mars is in Gemini, 15 degrees, moving forward, pretty well aspected. Nothing much to say about Mars. Mercury is hard aspecting, is applying to hard aspect Uranus. So, what I would predict in this context is as the moon reaches Taurus, okay? As the moon is applying to conjunct Uranus, or as the moon is applying to sextile Mercury, okay, when the moon will be in Aries, when the moon will be in Taurus, we might have some news, okay? News about the revolution, revolutionary news. There's a hard aspect between Mercury. Mercury is already in Aquarius and Uranus, okay? Some news, some shocking news, shocking new information, revoking of an agreement, of a contract, because Mercury is contract, Uranus is a revolution, okay, something revolutionary. Somebody can revoke a certain contract, okay, to do with land, to do with science, scientific research. If you're having research, it's abrupt stopping of research funding. All these things can happen, or just, shocking news. Children also, there's, some revolution, something like that, because Mercury is also children. Communication can be provoking, okay? Uranus is in Aquarius is about science, technology, okay? There's provoking news, provoking framing, provoking communications, revoking of agreements, breaking of agreements, or manifesting, some manifesting aspects. So revolutionary agreements, okay? For how to integrate these two energies, a revolutionary contract. Okay, so some funding, wealth, okay, Uranus and Taurus is allocated to technology and the signing of an agreement regarding technology. Okay, maybe rules and regulations around technology being revoked or being addressed. Maybe even, countries trying to implement their own coins or credit scores, or digital system, trying to get cash away and so on and so forth, which will of course intensify black markets and the ways to accommodate for that. So Pluto is hard aspect in Juno. I don't have any smart teaching around that, except that, it might not be the best time to start in a relationship if you want that to be longevity. If you want longevity, if you think about, is this the one? Dating now, that I put a big question mark on that. If you start dating anything more? Well, not much more. Not much more. And what can I say? Okay, so let's take a look, before we take a look at the 12 signs, the 12 ascendants. Let's take a look at like a recap. So this new moon, it features Saturn. It's hard aspect in Sedna. Okay, the ruler Jupiter traditionally is hard aspect in Ceres. So it's hard aspect. So experiences of limitation, wanting to begin something new, but there's a limitation. The new beginning involves an experience of betrayal, or is induced by an experience of betrayal. They can be sudden. Following the new moon, news contracts that are unpredictable, revoking of contracts around land, around wealth, around banking that are unpredictable. Gita Shabbos. And a sense of faithedness to things. What you're trying to begin, your worldview, your teaching, Jupiter in Aries, around Martian stuff, is hard aspecting. Maybe you want to start a war, and there are mothers of children whose children are supposed to be fighting, okay, and losing their lives. Okay, then your beliefs contradict these. You have to accommodate. Okay, the application of Jupiter to conjunct Chiron. Okay, the sense of wounding. You're starting a new beginning. There's a sense of wound to be addressed. Maybe it is finally resolved and accommodated. Maybe it is simply addressed and reiterated. So you're at least aware of what's blocking you. Blocking, energy blocks meridians, Sedna. Okay, learn about meridians. So my advice to you on this new moon, delve into meridians, study meridians, learn about meridians, set intention to have a release of energy blocks, okay, with this new moon, because the moon will be growing, so you don't manifest the release of energy blocks, you manifest the increase of flow in your life, okay, the increase of flow, of well-being, of health, wealth, wellness, it's another facet of that, wealthy in your bank account, wealthy in your health, and so on and so forth. So those are good things to work with. There are a couple of interesting conjunctions here to Sedna, to Fomalhaut, but Saturn is making it very difficult to bring these elections into fruition and to create talismanic matter. So it's not a day to capture. Okay, it's not a day to capture. Now, Venus in Pisces, separating from conjunction with Neptune. Venus is sextile in Pluto. Venus is not my concern, but it's not something that I can capture into being because of like everything that's going on here. In the background, Aries is applying to square Pluto. This has been ongoing. This is ongoing. This is the least discussed, most needed to be addressed aspect of 2023, if you ask me. It is as significant as the Saturn-Uranus conjunction that we had. I would need to look at this aspect way more deeply. It has the power to bring in new revolutionary science concerning gravity, from the way we see it as a force, Saturn, to gravity as a wave. And I've already began to have to delve into that and have thought experiments around that. So revolutionary sciences of power, of gravity, of nuclear energy, also Pluto, nuclear energy as a wave, and so on and so forth. And of course, the sense of the I am that Aries brings. She's always going to represent and identify with that voices that have been silenced, that have been marginalized in society. So I was recently, I met, how do you even call it? The Jews that accept Jesus, Messianic Jews. And I was just telling my name to them, Youngblood, and they said, oh, they're, native, like there are native in America, natives in America that have this name. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was shocked. I knew about South Africa, I knew about Netherlands. I did not know that could be indigenous. And that I've had this story about, connecting with being two-spirit, and want my gender to be cultural appropriation, but I also think about two spirits, how they're trained, and maybe they go through molestation. They only want two-spirit shaman in the tribe, and then they don't have people to turn to. So I need to look into my genealogy. Okay, so revolutionary news. Okay, and that happened on a Jupiter day, with Jupiter in Aries. So actually within, applying to conjunct my natal Aries in 19 degrees Jupiter, and realizing that I could be descendant to actually, two spirits. Who knows? Like, who thought about that, right? So Aries, in Aries, she's going to represent those who've been marginalized, and the marginalized of the marginalized of the marginalized, to square in Pluto, so the plutocracy. Okay, rules and regulations. Gender is one issue. People who are considered crazy, okay, because Pluto can be psychological abuse. Okay, mistreat of Pluto energy, mistreat of power, misuse of power can be psychological abuse. And then you know that the story about the gaslighting being the pronounced word of 2022. And this is pretty much the word that sums up Pluto and said in Capricorn, because we understood that the original person who gaslights, yeah, people call it narcissist, but we won't need the definition narcissist when people who went through trauma of abuse will no longer be called borderline, or psychotic or schizophrenic or whatnot, or all the things. You're like, you're not imagining, you're not a crazy person. If you start seeing it in different images and metaphors, because you cannot say it in simple language, because you wouldn't be accepted, because people would think that you are the crazy one, when the crazy one is the one who made you go through this. And then you see it as a person or a partner, maybe parent, maybe a family member, and then you go to your psychologist, and then he or she is doing that, and then you go to your psychiatrist, and then they are doing that, and then you go to court, and then the judge is doing that, and then you go to the government, and then the government is doing that. And this is the plutocracy, the Pluto and Saturn Capricorn, the hierarchical structure. You try to go to the person upstairs, and you're like, they're all, the way the deceased Peter de Vries called it, the world is upside down. Okay, and he said that when he got arrested for trespassing, when he was trying to interview a cop that was stealing money from old women, or from a woman, or something like that. The cop was stealing money. De Vries, the Misdaad Geslager show, tries to solve this case, and then he goes to Australia, and he's been arrested by trespassing, but he wants to extradicate a criminal cop, and so on and so forth. He said the world is upside down, okay? They arrest the person who comes to solve the crime case and protect the right of the person who committed the offense. Um, so this is the story of the entire Pluto in Saturn Capricorn. Okay, then we would go to decentralized society. Then we would go to government control. Then we would go to community and the tribe, idealizing the tribe. We want to go back into tribe community and blah 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 blah. Okay, and Pluto will show up there. Okay, gurus, cults, all these things that we have 20 years to address. When Pluto is going to go into Aquarius, okay, the structure outside the structure. But the structure within the structure, Aries is very much representative of those people that have been wronged by the plutocracy, by the people who use their power in a way that is abusive. Okay, so it is not this stranger in the street that violates this child, or this criminal from over there. It is your parent, your neighbor, your teacher, your psychologist, your psychiatrist, your judge, your doctor, and so on and so forth. Your governor, you're a famous person, you're this, you're that, and so on and so forth. Like even Julian Assange was convicted in rape, right? So even the person who is the trying to expose the government, like even they misconducted. Like nobody was. The world is upside down, and so Aries square Pluto needs to be addressed, needs to be spoken about. Nothing around this conjunction, this tight aspect, nothing around the moon going, through Pluto, through Aries, through Pluto, through Aries, squaring this, squaring that. Nothing around that being triggered so many times around each month is easy. Don't think this new moon is easy. Don't think February is easy. Yes, there are good aspects to calibrate on, but if you listen to to your favorite astrologers, and they say, I really like the astrology of the full moon on the 20 February full moon. I really like this astrology. There's a new beginning in Pisces. That's so this, so that. And you go through this new moon and you feel exasperated, exhausted, frustrated, misrepresented, unseen, betrayed, know that you're not imagining. Um, and unfortunately, there are people that can experience all of this range of experiences just by the merit of the chart without even talking about your chart. Where the points of hope, study meridians, sadhana, and I really, 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 really owe this credit to the person who wrote the book about Sedna and the meridians, which I'm yet to buy. But when I had my study with Miss Sedna, then I look into there. You can watch this episode. I just put it on the screen, and I think it was a Nordic writer, but I don't remember where from, and I don't remember the name. So, pardon, please watch the episode, and you have everything that you need to know. You can order the book. Um, and I'd really like to read this book myself. That exposed me to the understanding of Sedna that I didn't have before. I just knew Sedna, betrayal. So she must be able to magically protect from betrayal. Cool, wonderful. But there's like, even if you don't do talismanic magic, you can look into meridian-based medicine, meridian-based view of the world. Going to the meridians, and then you already are integrating the energy more blissfully. Thank you so much. This is really exciting. I'm so much owning the fluency of these episodes to my mother giving me coffees and just I can't I can't put it in the frame, but it looks so beautiful, and it's just fresh fruits and nuts with coconut like crumbs and yeah, and some seeds, and this is just so, and I haven't even drank my coffee. I'm just so freaking blessed and so freaking thankful. So yeah, that is amazing. Like I said, success is not a solitary practice. I would not be able to record this episode without somebody bringing me coffee and taking me food that keeps me fresh throughout it. So thank you so much. So yes, meridian stuff. Look into meridian stuff. Your worldview. Check at your worldview and see, do I accommodate for anybody who can be accommodated? Look for mothers that have children, and what would your worldview or your Martian worldview implicate on their children? Okay, look, talk. Okay, they don't have all the truth. You don't have all the truth. If you meet each other halfway, if you can accommodate for each other, you can have a combat praxis that is actually providing the safest method for these children that need to, I don't know, serve in the army or whatnot. So look into that. Look into traditional views of eroticism. What it comes into mind for me is there's this almost stupid argument, but actually genius about, I heard somebody says, should men open doors for women? And when I come to think, me, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a this, I'm a that, and I think my very first date, I naturally opened the opened the door for the man that I was dating, and then this irrational general, and well, how do I experience it when the man opens the door for me? How do I experience it when I open the door? These stupid things, okay, these mundane things that have so much effect, this traditional erotic rapport that can have so much effect on us. I remember when I first traveled Italy, it was almost triggering to me because everybody was flirting as a etiquette, as a social etiquette, and I was not used to feeling so feminine. So it was, and then these questions with myself. Okay, like, how do I want to integrate that into my dating practice or whatnot? So even questions like this, your worldview, okay, should the man pay? Should the man this? Should the man open the door for me? Do I like this? Do I not like this? Maybe there's something about the Russian, the eros that is traditional, or traditional gender roles, that I actually do want to preserve in my new dating method. So I can be the most feminist, person in the world and have a man open the door for me. Um, or perhaps that when I'm a man, maybe I'm displaying traditional roles and I'm not paying attention to that, so I can be, my woman part would do one thing, and then my man part would do completely another thing, and then I'd have to think about it. Um, so it can be something like that, because Eros is erotic rapport, and Jupiter in Aries is action. So your action your impulsive action has a worldview related to it that is sometimes maybe even unconscious by the merit of your being impulsive. Mm, that's good coffee. And just reflect on that, okay? Just reflect on that. Accept people who tell you something. Maybe they're traditional people. I've listened to Peter Jordan Peterson, okay, and there are things that I definitely reconsidered my natural Arian Mercury. I will die defending your right to speak, even though I completely disagree with you. I was actually considering that when a person preaches to for women to take partial responsibility in their rape, and if it happens in a place where they are not in equal relationship with the boss, and I'm like, well, this is Nazi. No way to say it. I like this. This is where Nazi is not, out of context. Um, but when he was talking about like why women that women made date men that are abusive in the beginning, because when women are young they mistake the abusive dominance of a person as fearless competence of a genuine man. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. It's true. It's true. You think this is a real man. It's like, no, no, no. He's not a fearless, competent person. He's just abusive, and he tries to imitate that. But when you're young, you don't know the difference. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. So I did not expect to agree with him. So it's completely traditional view about Eros, right? Um, that I absolutely agree with. But other things, I think it's like horror stories, and that's why I didn't like try to bring him into Spirit of Matter, which otherwise I would probably have at least tried. Um, so yeah, and so your new worldview has to accommodate for both. Okay, if it's a Martian worldview, how will the mothers of these children deal with that? Don't just ignore them, because when you're gonna come to Aries, Aries in Aries, okay, this Aries, then comfortable, because these mothers' voices matter. You need to accommodate. Aries is going to represent who's not being represented. And also your worldview around the Martian view. So dating, eroticism, a penetration, right? Mars, the penis, and so sex. But it's also sapiosexual, because Aries rules the head, so sapiosexuality. And so the erotic rapport that comes from traditional gender roles, okay? Eros in Saturn sign is Capricorn. Maybe being attracted to authority figures, maybe daddy issues, Saturn, or something like the old competent, like is he old competent, or will he open doors, will he pay for me, and so on and so forth. Um, Rules and regulations, or what your expectancies, and you may feel that there is contradiction or tension between your worldview around these topics and what you're erotically attracted to at this time. Okay, so just accept that and hold this tension. Okay, hold this tension, and don't lie to yourself, don't deny yourself the erotic experience that you actually desire to have, because some feminist says, or because some dogmatic belief says, or because this is the spirit of the times, or you wanted to start something new. No, do the past and the future together. Okay, take what you desire to have, and don't deny that. It's okay to have, just like some women say. I've been seeing even more beautiful. I've been seeing this trend on YouTube Shorts where they are stay-at-home dads, And there's this, would you be a stay-at-home dad if your wife made such and such money per year? And you see the man being so excited and wearing, robes and trying their wife's makeup and changing the diapers and, doing the stay-at-home dad. Um, and I just found it very interesting. Like, as a person who thinks each person has to have their own wealth regardless of the marriage, I still find that quite exciting and quite lovely. So just hold this tension, acknowledge. Anything more to say about this new moon? Well, some the days following the new moon, you might have experienced some shocking news and so on and so forth. Um, accept that Uranus comes to revolutionize something and liberate something. So understand that if something is happening, if you have been unfree in a certain place, Uranus wants to give you a kick in the bum and like, yeah, do you start your own thing and be you. Okay, Aries is do you, Taurus is be yourself, um, feel yourself, huh? So Uranus is not gonna put up with some outdated or dogmatic communication, and it's just gonna pull the rug from underneath and just accept that it's not against you. It's actually like, you've been unfree here, you've been not liberated here. Hey, like, the rug is being pulled from underneath your feet, and now you are asked to embrace authenticity in your communications, in your agreements, and your words, and so on and so forth. That's new moon with Pisces. Should I do 12 ascendant? So this is an hour and 17 minutes. Let's do the ascendants. So another sip from the coffee. Loud sipping. Let's look at the current planets. I'm trying to delineate current planets. Mars hour, done with the Jupiter hour. So with the Jupiter, I gave you points of light to look at, right? Jupiter hour, and now we're in Mars hour. So the prediction is that my 12 science breakdown is going to be divisive. It's going to be, a bit provoking, perhaps, or a bit rash, or the words that they say. So, no harm is intended on everybody, and watch with caution. Let's see what will come up. Let's begin with Ascendant Pisces. So Ascendant Pisces, this is happening in your first house. Moon is in your first house. Maybe you want to begin some new workout, a new regime, or something to do with your life path. But there is a delay, or somebody's like betraying you. Again, start something to do with meridian-based stuff. Learn about meridian-based stuff. Note that Jupiter in your second house. So if it's about expenditures, you're trying to spend money in a different way, make money in a different way. There is a delay, and there is a wound to be addressed. Okay, there's a new beginning, both in your life path and in how you make your money and how you spend your money. And there's still a wound to be addressed there, and there's still a delay to go through. Okay, so at least now you're becoming aware. Look to meridian-based whatnot, meridian-based medicine, meridian-based cosmology, Sedna work, paint Sedna, okay, stuff like that, for ideas, sparks of inspiration. Okay, if I gave you my example, and I was traveling around the neighborhood. I saw some person who has a business. I offered myself, like, the Aries stuff, and she said, yeah, we got something to talk about. I realized what is my realistic appraisal of how much I would like to make, and imagine myself making it. And then I said, oh, fuck, then I would, like I said, Mars. Mars in Gemini, the F word. Oh, fuck. I would have to addressed my tremendous fear of not relying on government support, because what I had to go through to get this government support when I needed it, because everybody was doing crooked and corrupt stuff, and I said no to corruption. Then like, this is so freaking scary that I would not want to go through any of these things, and what I might do would might lead to my death. So hey, like, I just wanted to make some money. Um, and you could be experiencing something not necessarily as intense, depending on what they want for you around being an entrepreneur, around being a person, around the way you make money, also around the way you spend the money. Okay, maybe there are some, some new things that you want to buy, and those things can be related to teachings. Maybe you want to buy a course, maybe you want to sell a course, maybe you're doing something for your business, you want to invest in something, and there's a wound there. Maybe you failed in the past, maybe there were problems, and so on and so forth. um, so Chiron is actually in good aspect with Mars. Okay, with Mars in Gemini. Okay, you have the ability to address your fears and build in a strategy. Decide this way, that way. Okay, Mars in Gemini. Two options. Normally, with okay, with Mercury in Aries, you have two options. You can need to somebody gives you a two options, an ultimatum. You make a third option, right? There's a T square. There's a T juncture, and you just go straight ahead. You pave your path, the road not taken. With Mars in Mercury, there are two options. One is eliminated. Okay, you gotta go this way. Both options are good. Okay, there are two people you could be absolutely happy with. Okay, you just go ahead and marry one of them, because you're not gonna be dancing unless you're polyamorous. But it's like there are these two beautiful people that you could spend the rest of your life with. Just marry one of them. That's that. Like, you can't marry both of them, right? You can't spend all your time and energy with both of them unless you have like a threesome. But with Mars in Gemini, it's very likely you just have to pick two of great options. There are two great options on the table. Just pick one. That's just that. Because you have to center your energy in one of them so that that can come into fruition. It can also mean something of twos. It can also mean you pick both. Okay, you have two houses to decide. You say, okay, how do I make money to buy both of these houses? And then there's a beginning, because you have to address something in your the way you manage the wealth that you make, how you make your money, how you spend your money. It's also your values. Okay, and in your values, you must include the people that are not being represented. You might have a more Martian value to your life, but you need to think, if you want to start a war, then the mothers of the children that are going to be your soldiers, you're going to have to accommodate for these mothers. Otherwise, your Jupiter is going to meet Aries, and Aries is going to have a harsh talk with you. You might be demoted. Okay, um, in anything, because Venus is in Pisces in your first house, it can be that you're dating someone new. Not something that I would recommend under these heavens. Because of the Sedna, okay, because of the Sedna square. But in this case, you could be tackling this very issue of like, would I like to open doors for them? Would I like them to? Those simple things, traditional worldviews, maybe at odds with your philosophical approach. Um, okay, so maybe you're very attractive to another person, but they expect you to pay the bill when you date. They don't care about your idealistic entrepreneurial aspirations. Like they still expect to be honored with you paying the bill. So ascendant, and like I said, with the belief, okay, just accommodate, just hold this tension, just don't judge them, retreat if you have to, and take a moment, take a breather. Ascendant Aries. This new moon is in your 12th house with the square to Sedna. Now, 12th house, it's the house of retreat. It's the house of being exposed to what you didn't know. because of that, it can be house of hidden enemies. Um, uh, Hospitals, jails, hotels. Okay, you might want to take a vacation, a retreat. Even when you do take a vacation and a retreat, it's a very good thing to go and study meridian based medicine. So maybe somebody is offering, I wouldn't necessarily go to a treatment because of the square to Sedna. Okay? But what I would do is look into meridian based medicine while you're at a retreat. Okay? If it is safe for you to go to a hotel and have a vacation at this time, it may be advisable, but only if it is safe for you. Okay, if you're a single person alone, if you're a woman alone, I don't know if I would advise that. Um, Maybe yes, maybe no. Okay, but you could be experiencing of betrayal at this place. If you're thinking, okay, if you're in a situation, if it's trigger warning, mental struggles, okay, and hospitalizations. So if you're experiencing or concerned, you think maybe I should hospitalize myself, the planetary, yeah, I'm not your doctor, the planetary skies is against doing that, okay? It's against doing that because you might be experiencing betrayal, you might be experiencing voluntary hospitalization turned into coercive one. So no, no, and a no, and a no, and a no, okay? No. If whatever it is in your means to just retreat is better, definitely because of the square to Sedna and because of the hard aspect to Saturn. Adjust your expectations for medication. This is very true to Neptune sextile Pluto. I've addressed it several times, but I might do a dedicated video about that. Um, just pay attention to that, okay? You might be offered some prescription, and you, if you pay attention to how it became okay to talk about mental ailment or mental struggles, it only became okay with prescribed drugs. So it's agented by drug dealers. So you can only talk about, it's only legitimate for you to talk about your mental struggle if you're advertising some sort of antidepressant or antipsychotic, which is actually about a blocker that could kill you, because it shuts down the warning of your body if something goes wrong. So you would not go to hospital to get life-saving help. You would just not have any symptoms, and nobody would understand what, and you would just die. Okay. So, not the least bit of funny, it's also prescribed to heart conditions. Noticed how Aquarius and Leo. Leo rules by Sun. Saturn in Aquarius. Okay, all these things. If this is 12th and 6th house for you, or rulers of 12th and 6th house are there. Okay, that definitely is a precaution. Another thing. Well, jail is not something that people usually are um, like in control of, but this can be if somehow you're listening to that and you're in jail or your loved ones are in jail, then if they have access to meridian based medicine, traditional medicine, acupuncture, not going to a practitioner but reading these books, being exposed to these books, because they may experience betrayal in jail, or in trial or something like that, or some difficult experience there. And so for the worldview, to accommodate um, for those that are not being represented, but may even if they are outdated, they belong to the past, or they are, landowners, okay, agriculture, farmers, peasants, and so on and so forth. Um, so this can be a new moon that is a new beginning, but it's not an easy one. Okay, that's for Aries ascendant. Jupiter is in your own house, um, expanding on your nourishment, but there is something to do, something to accommodate. There's a challenge there, and definitely is a serious one for your life path. Okay. but Mars is well aspected. Ascendant Taurus. New moon is in your 11th house, and Sedna is in your first. It's a new beginning regarding your dreams and goals and activism and communities at large. If you're running a community, um, you might be the person betraying someone. Yes, and then Taurus. To a lesser degree, Sun and Moon, you might be betraying someone. Um, but also, you're preparing yourself for being resilient in your with your acquaintances. You're being resilient with your acquaintances. Um, Saturn is about to enter this house, about to contract something. Um, you would need to pick and choose who you correspond with, to pick and choose how you relate to people, what are your acquaintances, what do you advocate for. Okay, there may be illusion and disillusionment around that. And pay attention, okay, you might be betraying somebody that is from your career, or betraying your boss, or your boss betraying you. Maybe you had to go to a conference and you're not going. Um, but while this experience is not easy, again, look to the meridians. Look to the meridians, and um, Jupiter is in your 12th house, okay? So your worldview is now not fully conscious. Okay, how you look at things is not fully conscious. Your instinct to do good is not fully accommodating. You're not quite aware of things. You may have Martian ideologies, Martian philosophies that you're not so aware of, that caused you maybe to betray somebody. Um, and there's radical acceptance that you need to cultivate. Gemini ascendant. So, you have Mars in your sign, finally aspected at last. Mercury hard aspect in, you're the ruler of your ascendant, hard aspect in Uranus. So for you, the new moon is in the 10th house. Um, but that Mercury is in the 9th. And Uranus is in the 12th. So for you also, okay, it's not the easiest of new moons. Um, you're heading for a big role in career. Okay, Saturn brings maturation. Now, depending on where Rahu and Ketu is in your chart, um, and perhaps the betrayal that you're experiencing right now, or the hidden enemies that are being revealed or that will be revealed around until the full moon or in the coming 6 months, are preparation for your resilience in your 10th house. You need to be resilient. Okay, with your bosses, they can be problematic, or you become a boss. You will have to be more responsible in the way you behave socially, what you're known for. So a lot of the things that you could do up until now, you will no longer be able to do as of now. Okay? Um, I'll try to give a concrete example. I have a Saturn in my 12th house. Okay? Even as I talk about mental health, beta blockers, this, that, I do not do cherry picking. Okay, I also address the kind of people who do need this type of medications that they won't be taken away from them. I cannot just advocate for some simple mission. I have to hold the intricacies. Okay, I don't just do my own well-being. Okay, I also bring teachings, and I have to make sure that these teachings are accommodating of the diverse data and diverse people and diverse patients. Okay. um, so right now Saturn is about to go out of my 12th house. Okay, but as I was beginning, this was the time that I transitioned out of having the doctors being peaceful and me being half dead to me being more peaceful and the doctors being more worried because I don't go by their prescriptions. Okay, notwithstanding that I am a case that is to be accommodated for in the general view of mental health. Okay, I'm not the entire story. And I was also exposed to a case of someone who is the opposite case of me. That their doctor told them to take off these medications, and for 7 months they have been experiencing very difficult experiences following the reduction of prescribed medicine that was prescribed by the psychiatrist. Okay, so I have to accommodate for these cases as well as I mature up my teaching around mental health. Okay, my knowledge from experience now becomes more generalized, and it has to include intricacies. I have Saturn in my ninth house, so teaching, right? And international relations and so on and so forth. So for you, it's the 10th house. Okay, up until now, you had a boss. Now you are the boss. Okay, so there are certain things that you need to accommodate for. You understand that the way that you needed the boss to behave with you is a private case, and you can't behave with everyone the way that you need to be behaved with. Okay, you must also provide for the people who need a different type of structure than you do, or need no structure. You must understand where do the mistakes that your boss made with you derive from. Okay, if I had, let's say, psychiatrists being very, very afraid that I will go through mental breakdown if I will not take their prescribed pills, and what actually was the case was the other way around, I have to account for why they were afraid, how they were indoctrinated, what they were not aware of, but also what are the cases that could be contradicting my case. So I can't just go with my teaching and generalize it. I have to allow for intricacy to arise. For you, it's the same thing with how to manage, how to be a boss, how to be a leading figure, how to present yourself to the world. Okay, there's something here that you're dealing that will have to mature up. You're getting now. You get to be the boss. You don't get to be the boss right yet. Now you're experiencing the type of betrayals, the type of challenges, the type of accommodation to your worldview that will have to happen as Saturn is going to do its work on your 10th house. Okay, so you're maturing up. You have to accommodate for intricacies, and you have to um, accommodate for different types of people that you lead and the type of leadership that they need. And you have to accommodate for being resilient, where the people that you thought would stand by you, or the people that you became a boss thanks to, are now betraying you. Okay, think about it every time. And there's even in every field. Okay, let's say astrology. There is the student of astrology, and for me, I can say about the time when I turned from the student of astrology to a practicing astrologer, there was this fracture of time of, this, how do we call it? The silent tone. Okay, the silent tone. Until after a couple of months, people got accustomed to the fact that I no longer am an enthusiast, I'm a practicing astrologer. And then I got to be more accommodated for. And people started making connections, people started talking, started addressing me as an actual astrologer. But that was that phase from going from a student into a colleague. And during that phase it was not easy. Okay, if you think you bring a new dog to a playground, then the first thing everybody smells is its bum. Then the second thing is they try to figure who is, who is above who in the structure, because you've just changed the structure. You've interrupted the old order. And then there's another player in the field. Everybody has to assess, okay? Are they trying to take my place? Are they trying to take my credit? Are they trying to do this? Or what kind of player? Is it a rational player, irrational player? And about the time when they try to assess things and try to test the boundaries of your, of your practice, of what you will do, what to whom you will set the boundary, how will you address this, how will you address that? At about that time, you go through being experiencing isolated, betrayal, um, you know, uh, people that you have maybe looked up to now. But then there is this phase, and after this phase, things tend to calm down. Okay, they understand who you are, what are your boundaries, what is your practice, what can they talk to you about, what can they not talk to you about under any circumstances, like what's your red lines. And from that point on, things are going to happen. Like, it's just the world, but you're more resilient to that. And this is something that happens in every profession, in every field. It's almost, this phase when somebody becomes from a student to a practitioner. And this happens to me also when I learned to be holistic health practitioner. Okay, people that up until then, people that were even supporting me in defining myself as holistic health practitioner. Okay, so to finally say I'm a practitioner, not a student. Even those people would act weird, and I just look at it as this is nature. Okay, this is nature. They are afraid for their practices, for me to steal customers, for me to stay in the playground, for me to be too close to them geographically, for me to be a dominant player. That's just that. That's just life. So for you, Saturn in Pisces, you're going to experience a lot of that. Also for, Taurus ascendant in the 11th house. Um, that's just something that is going to happen. Okay, for me, I experienced it with Saturn going through Capricorn. That was my 11th house. There were, I became more dominant in certain groups. And on the other hand, I also had to let go of certain groups, Saturn, Pluto, okay, transformation. I had to be a solitary player for a while, so I can define my boundaries and who do I relate to, who do I not relate to. Was fortunate enough to leave certain groups before a lot of havoc broke up, and fortunately, I'm not associated with that havoc. But I also experienced tremendous betrayal, and that is something that is just it's just part of life. Okay, it's not an easy part of life. Um, but what you're growing in this new moon is resilience. Okay, so understand that um, the things working for you, the rays of light, study meridian based stuff. Not necessarily go to a practitioner, but study it. Okay, work with it, play with that, and make sure that your worldview accommodates for both the people that are outdated, okay, and the people who are going to be affected by your policies. Okay, whoever is marginalized and misrepresented, accommodate for them. Accommodate now before Jupiter meets Aries. And this is happening in your 12th, so it's a lot of what you don't know that you don't know. When the moon is in your 12th house, try to meditate on that. When the moon conjunct Aries, try to meditate on that. You can watch my Aries episodes that are going to air, and have a deeper glimpse into what's coming. Ascendant Cancer. So for you, the new moon is in the 9th house. And Aries is in the 10th. Sedna in the 11th. So, you've not your full moon, we've addressed the full moon, was not easy. I remember when I said you need a consultation, but I cannot help you because I don't give that type of consultations. So the full moon was not easy for you, and this new moon is not the least bit of easy. Sedna in your 11th house, the new moon is hampered by Saturn in the end of your 8th house. So, depending if you're a night or a day chart, that would be more or less tremendous to you. Um, you may experience betrayal from your colleagues. Okay. You may experience, you may have to be resilient um, in your worldview, in your teaching. Okay. If you are a teacher, lecturer, philosopher, or planning to scheduling a travel, there are delays, there are challenges. Um, Again, look to meridian based. If you're for you, it's the easiest. It's in the 9th house. Study meridian. Go delve into a topic in meridian based medicine. Study Sedna. Okay, if you're an astrologer, look into Sedna. Um, you are, Jupiter in your 10th. You're addressing a wound in your career. Think about how your teachings, your philosophy, if you have international relations or traveling, your career and status, and your social media acquaintances, colleagues are all interrelated in the process of what you're going through. Okay? The 9th, the 10th, and the 11th are very connected for you. Mars is in your 12th house, doing well this time as the ruler of Jupiter. So Mars is less the problem. Mars was the problem in the full moon. Mars is less the problem in the new moon for you. Okay? The full moon, it was havoc. You had to be very cautious, especially with your own. If you have, penis, you had to be very cautious. But in the new moon, Mars is less the problem. It's in your 12th house. You may experience the experiences of Mars in your 12th house, but you may have premonitions or dreams or even solutions to things. You can ask Mars to solve things. Mars is a problem solver, so give it something broken to fix, right? Give it a problem to solve. Um, Depending on what you have in the 12th. So that can be more or less of a, for some people, if you have a luminary, if you have a personal planet or the ruler of your ascendant, okay, the moon, then of course it's going to be more difficult because conjunction is hard aspect. But other than that, Mars is doing well. Again, it's been doing well with Mercury. It is a beautiful situation here between Mars and Mercury. Mars is also sextile in Chiron. Okay, so you can have a dream that solves your problem. Manifest a dream that solves your problem. Even if you have a moon hard aspect in this Mars, okay, you could ask Mars to solve the problem in a dream, and that can be a great remediation for Mars in your, in your 12th at this time. Um, this new beginning is fated, but also there's a certain sort of resilience that pertains to 3 houses. Okay, and of course affects the 12th and the 6th, right? Jupiter is ruling your 6th house. Okay, so how you think now affects, your physical well-being. Always, but now it is in Aries. So your Martian philosophy, how is it affecting Sagittarius, your hips? Okay, if you're doing martial arts, then Maybe the way you bring the movement, how do you integrate the hips into that? Um, Jupiter ruling the head, so how do you position the head and the hips where you bring the energy from? But on a deeper level, your Martian philosophy, your action philosophy, is needing an update. It needs to address a certain wound that you have around your status, your career, around what you're known by, around your sense of self, because your 10th house is Aries, then your sense of self is very tightly connected with the career. And now there's a wound there because, hey, there's something that you're doing in your career that needs the readjustment and needs to accommodate for both the old, okay, Eros and Saturn, so all the rapport. Maybe your behavior, social behavior. You could be a boss or a teacher that is working and has students, and then what you were doing erotically belongs to the past, but it still turns you on, or it still turns someone on, but it is no longer, it's outdated, and you need to accommodate and hold this, that what was in the past and what is now is maybe, maybe you are a teacher and you dated someone that was your student, and in the past it was something that you could do, but now it's more difficult. It's not something that is accepted, although there is still rapport and attraction between teachers and students, so you have to go to other types of philosophies that accommodate for this tension without violating anybody's rights. But also hold that notion of that rapport and not disown it, okay? Not disown the erotic arousal that comes here from your 7th house, because the 7th house, Aries is in the 7th house, Jupiter is in the 10th house, okay? So there's some erotic rapport between somebody in your 7th that you are also the boss of, okay? So, or you could be bossing your relationship partner and feel like, hey, I don't think that that's right for us to do that, but then there is also an erotic color to that, so you can address that. um, that is less my concern. My concern is more what's happening in your 9th house, the way your worldview is changing, and there is somebody that you're going to experience betrayal from. Where is Venus? What is Venus? Okay, because Venus is in your 9th house here in the 29th degree, but also look to Venus in your natal chart, because that Setnat person is ruled by Venus. And where is Venus? It could be a spouse, okay? And you may feel betrayal from this spouse, or you may be the Venus person. Well, no, it's because you're the Moon person. Um, so you could be betrayed by your spouse, a business partner, or a sister, okay, sibling, somebody that's represent, or by a woman, okay, someone Venusian, not necessarily the spouse, because his 7th house is ruled by Capricorn, but somebody Venusian is betraying you, and or that your action are giving a betrayal experience to a Venusian person. So you could be the one betraying, and then that Sedna is actually the Venusian person in your life. And so this betrayal experience can be fated, but it's also, it can be that you don't accommodate your worldview, your new beginning, you don't accommodate for somebody in your teaching, for some Venusian person, they feel betrayed by you, okay? They feel left out in the cold because of something that you teach, and because of the way that you boss, the way that you lead, the way, or your status, what you're known for. So this can take many phases. And again, turn to Sadhana, turn to the teachings of Sadhana. And Saturn is about to enter your 9th house. The way you travel will be more regulated. Okay, you traveling abroad, more regulated. more Saturn-like, so they can be delays, they can be structures, they can be, so tend to the Saturn people abroad. Think about Pisces as, the lines of Jupiter, the lines of Neptune, and think about the Saturn people. Okay, elderly people, how they're being addressed abroad, the people that Saturn rules in Pisces, I don't know. But maybe that is something that when you honor, when you address that, then you can remediate this aspect, do what Saturn is calling you to do. There's definitely your worldview might be more fearsome during the Saturn in Pisces period. And so there can be the beginning of anxiety that's showing itself, that you have to find resilience within. Um, Marine agriculture, marine life, marine agriculture can be something that you can look into to study, to remediate that. Okay, the oceans, the plants in the ocean, because Saturn is agriculture. The mountains underneath the ocean. Okay, Saturn mountains underneath the ocean. The minerals of the sea. Okay, I began to visit the Dead Sea a lot more, and the Dead Sea is literally the Dead Sea, right? It doesn't need any more introduction. Okay, for me it's the first house, so bathing in the Dead Sea. For you it's the ninth house, so you might study this type of mineral ocean, the minerals in the ocean. um, and there can be anxiety around the worldview, contraction around the worldview. So you need to accommodate for that. There's a reality check to your beliefs that you're going to address. If it's a Saturn return, Saturn maturation for you might be even extra emphasized. But even without it, um, this new moon introduces you to a challenge that the Saturn in Pisces, during the Saturn in Pisces, you're going to build the emotional resilience to actually address a worldview that's more realistic, that's more down to earth. Okay. That being said, you can also be facing the illusion of time. So time is fluid, and there can also be disillusionment around that. Okay, you might think time is more fluid than it is. Okay, Saturn Pisces. Ascendant Leo. So the new moon is in your 8th house, Saturn is in your 7th, about to leave your 7th. Um, Jupiter is in your 9th house, and Mars in your 11th. Um, 8th house. Okay. Joint resources, joint finances, your accountants, okay? Your accountants might be betraying you, okay, especially if it's a woman. Um, and again, it's not about women because Sedna is ruled by Venus, right? Okay, Venus figure. The fluidity in which your resources with another or with your spouse is handled will have to be addressed. But it's going to be very difficult because Saturn is about to enter Pisces. Pisces in general is not something that is compatible with reality check. Okay? Like, what is the result of reality checking Ariel from Disney's Tales? Like, how can you reality check Ariel? Right? How can you reality check abstract art? How can you reality check that? It doesn't conform with that reality. And so Saturn in Pisces, and when I talked about Saturn in Pisces, I talked about the comic and the tragic. combination. Um, Saturn entering your eighth house, of course, it's like it's a reality check to your finances, but there's something abstract about your investments that cannot be reality checked, that cannot be accommodated by Saturn. Okay, so what Saturn is trying to do there, I don't know. Okay, um, Sedna is in your 10th house. Maybe you're taking on a certain career to do with certain types of meridian based view of the body. Um, Jupiter in your ninth, so your worldview needs to accommodate, like I said, it's your worldview you need to accommodate for the voices that are not being represented. Um, you may have taken a certain commitment that now entails joint property with your, significant other. So okay, that's something to be addressed. But there can be betrayal around that. Okay, it's just something that's in the chart. Ascendant Virgo. So new moon is happening in your 7th house, with implications from your 6th house Saturn into your 8th house Jupiter. And Sedna is in your 9th house. With Venus in your 7th. Okay? If you're thinking to commit to someone under disguise, simply put, cancel the wedding. I don't have a simple way to say that. And Mercury is squaring Uranus. This is exactly what it means. You could be suddenly divorcing. Also financially, okay? Partner. You could be suddenly divorcing from a business partner. And not just marital divorce. Some shocking information. Some agreement is revoked. And the Venus person can betray or feel betrayed again. In this particular one, the experience of betrayal might actually not be because someone is the villain. Okay? You may have broken certain boundaries, or the other person broke certain boundaries that are like shocking revelation, and that's a red line. It can simply be that. Okay? It doesn't mean that somebody is the villain. It doesn't mean somebody's doing it on purpose. Okay, there's a lot of fated events happening here. And if you're starting a relationship under disguise, think twice. Okay? It's not the position of Venus. Okay? It's the presence of Sedna and the square from the moon. Okay, if the moon was not aspecting Sedna, and Sedna was not aspecting Venus, because Sedna has been in Taurus for 40 years, I would not have anything to say about that. But because the moon is hard aspecting Sedna, then there is a betrayal experience that's being brought to the surface in your 7th house. I cannot go any way about this. You can study medicine all you want, okay? I would not sign a marital agreement, a marital contract right now. It's not a good time to do that. If you are divorcing right now, then can be an issue of wealth. It's been discussed, an agreement's been revoked. Maybe you didn't know all the details if you signed a prenuptial. Okay. Okay. If it's a marriage, the simple sky say cancel the marriage. Or at least postpone. At least postpone. They can save you lifelong of, decisions. At least wait a couple of days. The moon is just, postpone it in a day. I don't do marital elections, but postpone it in a day. You're already out of this moon manifesting sadhana. You're already out of it. Okay? But if this is the day, if the new moon is the day, no. Just wait for the moon to go somewhere else. It's not a hard aspect sadhana. You're already better. It's going to be a growing moon, so it's even better for you. Okay? Venus is still in the 29th degree sextile in Pluto. Can be great. Doesn't have to be terrible. But this particular sky, when the moon is squaring sadhana, don't start anything. Definitely don't come in contractual relations. There's going to be a revelation around that. And this can be just like, you signed an agreement, you signed a prenuptial, the moon goes to Aries, triggering the Uranus or the Mercury thing, and then you get the breaking news that somebody betrayed you, that something went wrong, or you betrayed somebody. Okay, you might be betrayed somebody thinking it's gonna work. It didn't work. They found out. Okay, now you have to take legal precautions. But sometimes it's not done intentionally. Okay, sometimes you didn't think of something as betrayal. You think, oh, I'm gonna match my interest here. I'm gonna match my interest there. And you didn't think much of it, and then you realize that, and you're like, that is a big deal. They experience this as betrayal, and boom, everything's being revoked. So for you, like ascendant Cancer, it might be more difficult, but not impossible. Okay, if you're in existing relationship, communication might be. You might be, an old wound may arise. It's about betrayal. Maybe somebody cheated somebody in this relationship, in other relationship, and they felt betrayal, not just cheating. Okay, that can be addressed. But it's not something that's going to make or break. It says if you're in a relationship, it doesn't mean you're going to divorce. It can be. It doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. It can just mean that certain things are being brought into the surface to be addressed. Which can actually make the relationship more resilient. With Saturn about to cross your 7th house, you might actually be committing or be taking your commitment a step further, or have a more mature phase of the relationship that's actually going to hold you together and give you longevity. If you're just going through a rough patch, okay, it can also be that. But if you're thinking of starting a relationship, of making a commitment, of proposing, cancel the plan, postpone it, go for a better election. Ascendant Libra. So this is happening, the new moon is in your 6th house, with Saturn being in your 8th and Jupiter in your 7th. Now, because Jupiter is in your 7th and Venus is in Pisces, you may meet somebody at work. Okay? Again, same thing as I said to Virgo. You can listen to my Virgo a couple of minutes earlier. Ascendant. It's not the sky to begin in a relationship in. It is the sky to accommodate your view about a relationship, about a partnership. What do you want from this endeavor? What do you want there to be? Okay, how do you want that to relate with your health? 6th house is also health. Do you want to have pets together? 6th house, pets. And how about your work? Okay, because 6th house, the service you give to the people. Do you want a person who is working all the time? Do you want a person who is working half the time? And then I invite you again to look at Victor's teachings. I'm not getting any dividends from that, but feel free to say you heard about him from Shirley, and who knows what will be. So maybe you want to look at, your houses. Maybe you want to take Victor's course about relationships and see. But again, even if you take a course not under this particular sky, wait a bit more. Definitely wait for, but definitely do consider the worldview that can accommodate for. You know what? Maybe it's a good kind of time to take such a course because your worldview around relationships is changing, and you need to be able to accommodate for both the erotic rapport that you are getting from, Capricorn is in your fifth here. Fifth, no. Yes, but it's in your no. Sixth, fifth is in your fourth. So something about the home you grew up in and the erotic rapport that you were taught, taught by experience to enjoy or that is enjoyable is not in harmonic relationship with how your philosophy about how relationship commitment should be, or the role gender roles in the committed relationship. And you need to address what is the benefit of the erotic rapport that you have been taught. Okay, maybe the gender relationship is not going to be the same, but there are certain things you want to preserve, and just hold this tension. Also, for you, especially because Jupiter is opposing Ceres, and Ceres is in your first house. Okay. Why do you say conservatorship? I don't know. I don't know. But joint custody, like before you get married, you think about the person that you marry is the person that you divorce. So before you know the person that you marry, you need to know the person that you divorce. In case of separation, okay, joint custody, not joint custody. If you're coming from different lands, who keeps the children? If somebody returns to the other country, address this now. When Mercury is still in Capricorn, address these things. Okay, the danger of having your children being taken away. Address these things now. If you don't have babies, address these things. Maybe you're child free. You don't know if you will be forever child free. You still want to grant your rights. If I don't know something happens. Um, so those are all things you need to accommodate for. The new moon is in your sixth. Jupiter is in your seventh. Okay. How you work affects your relationships. Pets and relationships. Okay. Maybe your relationship partner is allergic to fishes. You grow fishes with Pisces, right? Um, how do you plan to maintain your well-being? Okay, Pisces. Okay, I mean, being Jupiter, Aries. I don't know. Maybe you're vegan and you're or pescatarian, and your spouse and your significant other actually wants to eat horses. Okay, there are horse delicacies if you go, in Europe, or eat seals or whatnot, and they come in from a different culture. So you need to see, like, what are you going to do, right? Think about all these things that you need to accommodate that are not being represented about your relationship view, because Saturn is coming um, to your sixth house, and it's going to test that. Okay, if you say, oh, I really like this person, you're forgiven, and you are a pescatarian, and this person eats a horse delicacy for breakfast with a sandwich every day, and this is their daily ritual, and then you date this person and you commit to this person, you realize you really can't stand. You'll get twitches in your body when you see them eating a horse. And it's just not gonna work for you. Okay, it sounds like the most stupid thing on earth, but this can make or break connections sometimes. Okay, Saturn is gonna going. Oh, maybe you know it with Pisces in the sixth house. You're thinking about you like horses. You want to grow a horse. Then Saturn comes in. It's like, can you caretake for a horse? And then you become sick. Okay, who takes care of that horse now? Who takes care of that pet? So you got to think about it. Where's Sadhana in your 6, 7, 8, 8th house? So joint finances, what you invest in. Maybe you invest the money on your work in a certain way, some stock changes. Maybe something was presented as a solid investment, Taurus, that is not. Okay, if it is real estate, maybe you've been scammed. Now you have to accommodate for that. And you have time, okay? You have time. Saturn's going to go into your sixth house, going to mature up the way the service you give to the world, but it's also going to face you up. What happens when you're sick? What happens when you're not that able to work, okay? If you've been one of the people that have been idealizing work, that have been thinking that, they're going to be able-bodied forever, you might get a reality check. You might get sick. And you might realize that, oh, the budget, the investment that you thought is going, or your 401k is not actually providing. In this case, who do you turn to? Or you might fear that you can become reliant on your spouse in such a condition. So you need to really carefully assess these things. Now, with the full moon, you're given a bit of an experience of Sadhana, just not an easy experience, that gives you a harsh reality check on how are you functioning in relationship, in partnership, where you might not be able-bodied. You might not be able to take care of that pet. You might not be able to hire these employees and count on them to do the job, or to count on yourself to be the employee, okay? Relationship doing in such cases, if you are in a relationship, what you need to accommodate for. So you have time to address this and try to think, what are you going to do with Saturn going through your sixth house in the upcoming 3 years? How are you going to address that? You can, for example, you can start a new way to be creative, okay? Because Saturn is dedication, Pisces is creative escape, so you can do arts. Okay, it might not give you income, but it can definitely contribute to your well-being, or it can give you income that you didn't expect, but you're going to work hard for that. Ascendant Scorpio. Pisces in your 5th house. Saturn in your 4th. Sedna in your 7th. Okay. This is a creative project that you will be working on when Saturn is contracting your 5th house. Okay, some creative project. You know what? Saturn in your 5th house, people think Saturn dead, this, that, blah. It's also something materializing. You can you could get pregnant, you could bring a baby. And now I have to understand, what are the chances for somebody to try to take this baby away from you? How do you protect yourself legally? Okay, how do you protect yourself legally? Who grows the baby? Okay, a Capricorn, the 3rd house. Okay, maybe you expect a sibling to help, but they're not gonna help you. Okay, maybe you know what? It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Maybe you expect a sibling to help and they got pregnant too. Huh? You thought, oh, when I get pregnant, you told your sister, and your sister told you, when we get pregnant, we can help each other's babies, and you two get pregnant together. Who's gonna take care of the babies? Okay. And your partner is not really able to provide for you now. Okay, I don't know what your partner, what's this, what's that, but your significant others ruled by Venus. Venus in 29 degrees of Pisces, dreamy, lovely, informed, manifesting, because it's the Mars phase of Pisces. It's already the manifesting Pisces. The action, taking action on something, finalizing, refining something. But Sedna is ruled by that Venus, and the moon is hard aspect in Sedna. Okay? So your significant other is not able to be there for you in your new creative beginning. If you're having a baby, she or he might not be able to be present, fully present as the father of this baby. Not necessarily by their fault. Okay, they're tending to something. And that leaves you in a situation, okay? If you're doing a creative project, okay? Maybe you wanted to start a hobby. Maybe it's not the hobby you make money from. Okay, maybe you just wanted you want to have a yacht. You want to learn how to sail. And you were thinking your partner is going to help out taking care of the children or taking care of things or being allowing to accommodate so that you can go out and do your creative labor and your partner has to tend to something else. Suddenly, and you feel betrayed by the experience, and it doesn't even mean that they actually betrayed you. You just feel betrayed because they have to tend to something else and they prefer this something else over helping you out, and now you want like you got to do it by yourself. You got to accommodate for things you didn't think you have to accommodate, and you don't enjoy it as much, but you do become resilient. Okay, you have to set the time. Saturn is about setting the time. Is about to go to your fifth house. You have to set the time for your hobbies. Saturn is not only about contraction; it's also about taking the time to do something. Okay. Why did I say flight? Because if you want to learn how to fly a plane, it's very contracting activity. Okay, it's very difficult. The training is very difficult. You might want to do it for leisure, but Saturn demands you to be dedicated with this hobby. Okay? In Pisces, this creative hobby can be about painting, about about writing a book that is artistic, okay? And you have to do this. Your partner is there, your partner is not there, your children are there, children, like you have to make the time to do this. You have to. You won't be a good parent, you won't be a good mother, father, I don't know what, if you won't do this, because this is your hobbies. And this is also true, fifth house is gambling, is children, is creative projects. Okay? Um, one of the things that I've seen, Catherine's astrology, she was having a new baby, and she said that the drag show of the RuPaul show is a good pastime where she sits and she knows she has to nourish the baby, and then she just nourishes the baby and watches this drag show with the RuPaul show. And I'm thinking about something like that, because this hobby that you're doing is actually essential for you to be able to provide for your child. Okay, so you have to find a way to do that with your child, because your partner, not in Catherine, like not her example, but it was just this thing that came in my mind of how your hobbies are essential to your being a parent. Also, what we do with children, okay, we play with them. Sometimes we just tend to them and we hug them. Okay, and then you can hug them watching a show or watching or listening to a concert, or you can hug them and sing to them, and then you can record yourself singing. You have, an album, songs to my babies, when you baby feed. And these things are essential. They are essential because you both need the connection with the child. Doesn't matter if you're a mother or father, you both need the connection with the child. But also, if you don't do hobbies, if you don't do something that is fun for you, this child is not going to have a parent. Okay, you need and also when I talked about fertility, and I don't have children, okay, so I think about it cognitively. It does help a lot of people. It might not be helpful for your case, okay, so it's not like knowledge from experience. But when I talk about fertility, I talk about connecting with the child in you and the child experience and child curiosity and the frequency of new life inside. And that frequency of the child can contribute to your conception of children, whether you're trying to conceive with, IVF or something, to bring life into fruition. So one of the main contributors is your connection with your fifth house, your connection with what is fun for you, doing fun activities, and sometimes being able to concept is actually connecting with the child, and you align yourself to be a child before you become a parent. And as you are a parent, you also connect with your child experiences in a joyful way. You're still the adult, but that allows you to be a good adult. Okay, you need to be a child to be a good adult. So here in this case, Ascendant Scorpio, whether it's a creative project or not, Saturn in your is going to go to your fifth. You have to make the time to have a hobby. Must. Okay, it's not less joy time. Okay, think about Saturn also in another way. Saturn is taking the time to do so. You must dedicate time to your hobbies. You must dedicate time to your hobbies, or otherwise you will be an anxious person, or you become anxious, and then you do your hobbies, and it's a remedial for Saturn. Um, so yes, your partner is not able to accommodate on this new beginning. Again, you will feel betrayed. You will feel left out in the cold. You will feel many things, and maybe this is also, I don't know, but you feel many things. There have to turn into something creative, and you still must make your time to do what you came here to do, spouse or not. If you don't take the time to your hobbies, and so to be a grown adult, okay, you must take time to be a child too. Saturn in the fifth is you must take time to also be a child. Sometimes Saturn in the fifth can turn your hobby into a profession. Okay, when I had Saturn in my fifth, it was my sadhasati, and my hobby of writing. I began to edit my mother's book. So my hobby became a profession. That's it. I had to do this. It was no longer just my hobby. I had to edit. I had to do this. This was my job. Okay? And then we traveled with the money, and I do have natal Saturn in the ninth, and the moon is connected to it, but it was very funny. So Saturn in the fifth is not just less pleasure time, less hobby, less fun. It can also mean that your hobby is now profession, and you must complete this. Okay? It's karmic depth. Okay? You must write this book. You must play with your child, or your child will die. Huh? Like that. So yeah. And again, please, if you are in a significant relationship with another, this is a new moon. It's not. It is not. Okay, in this case, Uranus is not aspecting. Uh, okay, it is in your seventh house. Okay, so yes. Can divorce come out of this? Yes. But look very carefully. You could be in a good long-term relationship that is having a rough patch. Okay? So it's not necessarily the time to say, oh, if they cannot be with me on this, I am divorcing, I am this, I am that. Wait. Okay? Uranus is rash decisions. And something in your home life, some news in your home life, some communication is affecting your seventh house. Some crazy news around this, after this full, new moon. No. Wait. Okay? It doesn't necessarily, it can in some cases mean divorce. But don't be rash. Okay? Uranus wants to revolt. Okay? Your significant other right now wants to revolt. Okay? So Uranus in your seventh means that your significant other, your relationship is going through a revolution. Okay? It doesn't necessarily means divorce. It just means you have to both of you have to revolutionize the worldview, how you see a connection. Okay? If you needed your partner to accommodate for something, and now they need to tend to something else, maybe you're gonna have to find somebody else to do it. Maybe you both are gonna have to find, you know what, if it's children, maybe you have children together. Okay? They can't babysit. They can't babysit. Nothing in the world would give them to babysit right now. They're tending to their own project right now. You said, I'm going to write this book. They said, but I'm writing a book now. And you said you're going to write this book for years. You haven't written this book. And now I'm writing this book. Now when I write this book, you write this book. Yes, we both write the book right now. What can we do? Take a freaking babysitter. Okay? They're not betraying you. They're just being creative. And here, Venus in Pisces, they're not betraying you. They're just being creative. You feel betrayed, left out in the cold, and you're not wrong in your experience. Okay? That being said, there can be cases where this means divorce. I'm not saying, but with Uranus, Uranus is divorce. Okay? Uranus says, I want to get a divorce. Um, However, Uranus is not necessarily divorce. Uranus can also be revolutionize, open your views, um, be able to fulfill your needs with more than one person. This doesn't necessarily mean sex, okay? It can also mean babysitting. Hire a babysitter so you can both write your books. Hire two babysitters. Okay, Beyonce has eight. Okay. Think, open your mind. Okay, I know that I have Venus in Taurus and Sun in Taurus, so the way that I communicate, and this is Mars, it began in Mars hour, so the way that I communicate, you might feel betrayed by me when I say that. It's not, the intention is not to betray you. Okay, it's not to betray, it's not to validate the betrayal in your values. It is to open your mind and ensure that you will not lose a good long-term connection or partnership or business partnership because of a temporary, concerning Uranus is also suicide. So they say about suicide, uh, do not put a terminal solution to a temporary problem. Okay, suicide is trying to put a terminal solution to a temporary problem. Okay, so you're having Uranus in your seventh, it's a temporary problem. Do not, dissolve or cut something like that, um, because this may be a temporary problem. And you know what? You might address that if you divorce in your next relationship. That being said, Uranus is about Kundalini energy. Okay, so creative energy. Whatever happens, you must be creative. If your partner decides to break up with you, which is unlikely to happen, because they're the Sedna person, they're busy being creative. They're not busy divorcing. If we won't put them through an ultimatum, I don't think they will break up with you. But if you will, they might, and that would seem like you broke up with them to them. So you would feel betrayed, and they will say, "Well, you got me to break up with you because you put this ultimatum." Okay, but you will feel that they are putting the ultimatum while they're just being creative. Venus is in Pisces, okay? The ruler of your seventh house is in Pisces. They're finalizing something. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's art, maybe they're painting, maybe they're recording a musical album, and you want to do something creative too. It's your fifth house, okay? You're both being creative at the same time. And Saturn is about to go into your fifth house. So you don't have to give up your creative project. They don't have to give up their creative project. If one of you gives up on their creative project, then you will divorce. Okay? Uh, but um, but you must understand, unless there is a problem that is chronic, and this is like the breaking of it. But to me, it seems like if you're dealing with a significant other, both business partner and or spouse, he or she are just doing something creative that is necessary for their evolution. Okay, so unless, and you know what, even if that is having an affair, you could be having an affair too with this one. But even if this having an affair, please listen to Esther Perel before you make conclusion, because you're up next. Huh? You're up next. Whatever they're experiencing that is Uranus, maybe they have a Uranus opposition, Uranus square, they have a Kundalini rise, so they have this Uranus Venus. Maybe you're older, you're younger. You're up next. You're up next. So what do you want? You want to divorce them and then marry someone else, and then you're up next. So they're gonna divorce you? Or you want to listen to Esther Perel, you want to take a retreat, you want to take all the time you need to explore your pleasures. Maybe you want to see other lovers too without necessarily breaking a connection. Okay, maybe you need to revolutionize, maybe it's a phase, maybe I don't know what. So even in the like worst case scenario, they're betraying on you with another woman or another man or another, queer person, like whatnot. Even if that's the case for the relationship, I still say listen to Esther Perel before you make a decision. Because you might think, okay, with Jupiter here squaring Eros, you might think that the way that your neighbors do it, the way that your siblings do it, the way that the I don't know what does it, that's the way to be, and this revolutionizes your whole worldview. Lo and behold, you're up next to fall infatuated with someone, and have a fated affair. Like, if this is the even if this is the case for you, I still tell you, don't say, I divorce, or put ultimatum, which is another way of saying I divorce, to your spouse right now. Do take the time to do your creative project, whatever it takes. Hire a babysitter, hire 10 babysitters. Well, I won't say get in depth, but definitely, you know, take the time to do what you need to do. Um, but don't make it an issue of uh, stay or go in a business partnership or in a relationship. Okay, maybe you're two musicians. Okay, maybe you're in a band, and you were thinking to go for a solo album up next, and you were thinking to record something together, and now they're saying, I'm working on a solo album right now, I can't record this with you, and you feel betrayed. But you're about to record your own solo album. So who's gonna take care of the band? I don't know. Should we break the band then? No. Still think it through afterwards. Okay, that can be the case. Enough of that. Ascendant Sagittarius. So this is happening in your fourth house. New Moon in your fourth house, Saturn in your third house. Aries second house, fifth house, Jupiter, Saturn in your sixth. Somebody from your home, from your upbringing, from your home environment, um, maybe you're working with somebody, maybe it's a business, a family business, and there is experiences of betrayal in this family business. It's a new beginning there in this family business, but Saturn is about to enter your fourth house. So while that can be death of somebody in the family, that can also be this can also be birth of someone in the family that requires you to take more responsibility of the house. You could be building a house soon. Okay, maybe thinking about real estate purchases, and there's something going on there. And think of it as resilience mode. You're being exposed to shocking information in the coming days after the new moon. Just take that and process that. Jupiter is ruling you, your worldview, who you are, your worldview, your life path needs an update, a reality check, and accommodation for the voices that are not being represented around you. As a result of that, you might feel betrayed by a sister, a mother, some Venusian figure in your life, or you're the Venusian. Well, no, you're not the Venusian figure because you're the Jupiter. Um, yeah. So, hey, take that into account. It's a change of, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's what it is. It won't save you the experience of Sedna. But again, look to meridian stuff. If you do in a home, like how do the meridians affect your home, your styling, and what's happening in it? Ascendant Capricorn. So this is happening in your third house, the Saturn in your second, Jupiter in your fourth, and Sedna in your fifth. Third house. Um, New daily routine that you expect. Maybe you expect even your children to accommodate for this daily routine, and they're like, no, we are working on our own creative project. Um, so you may feel like they're not helping or helpful. Um, there's somebody you met at the leisure time comes to your daily routine. That can also be, maybe you're going to a class or something for a hobby, and then this person becomes your neighbor and, I don't know, reveals your secret or something. Um, it's not an easy one. The neighborhood changes. Is something you live with somebody, a neighbor, somebody changes. Um, Jupiter is in your fourth. Jupiter in the fourth, you could be growing the family. Okay, so no baby comes in. But Jupiter in the fourth can also mean how you view the house, real estate, death. Sometimes, okay, it's also grieving, or the house is growing bigger itself, and you've expected maybe your children to help, or maybe you were expecting to live around your children, and they're like, no, we're moving to another country. But or you were expecting your children to keep distance, and then they're like, no, we're now moving in, now we are your neighbors. This is neighbors, okay? They're not moving into the house necessarily. They're just, although the ruler of Venus is Jupiter, so your children might want to. Now, third house is also transportation, okay? Maybe a child gets a driving license, and you've expected them to have their own car, and they're expecting you, you know? So, um, you're ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in your second house. Saturn is about to leave your second house. So, the money contraction that you have experienced is about to find a relief. Your money troubles are going to be relieved. But then, your third house, less neighbors, maybe a neighbor dies, and your daily routines are contracted. Why? Something to do with the creative, or something to do. You were thinking to start something creatively, but then something's not forming. However, as of March, Saturn is going to embark away from your second house. Say goodbye to self-worth anxiety. Say goodbye to money struggles. For the last at least 6 to 10 years, isn't that joyous? Depending on the chart, blah 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 blah. But okay, so just remember that. Okay, if you have children, they're gonna drive you nuts. I'm thinking here, recording in the house of somebody, sending Capricorn, recording for hours and hours and hours, and working on my vlog and that and that and that, and that instead of just being with the family. But you like, your children are going to drive you a bit nuts. Your children are going to be more neighboring to you. They can become your neighbors. They can interfere with your daily routine in more ways than you've been used to. Um, what else? They can also affect, because fifth house, okay? What you're doing creatively affects the way maybe your home needs to grow. You need more space in your home, because the fifth, okay, the ruler of the fifth is Venus, is in the third. This is neighbors. But the ruler of the third is in the fourth, because Jupiter, the house expands. Why? Maybe a child is moving in with you, or somebody is bringing a baby, huh? And you need to accommodate for that. Okay? Now, there's an there's a sense of betrayal here. Okay. Sedna in June is ingressing to your sixth house. Whenever that is triggered by the moon, this can mean that you might get sick, certain things to do with pets or employees or being employee, okay, or somebody at your work betrays you, okay. Now Sedna is in your fifth. It's been triggered by the moon in this new moon. For the next 6 months, the trouble have to do with people you meet at leisure time when you do your hobbies, children, okay. They can, and again, if it's children, they're probably not doing this on purpose, where you still experience like, hey, that's betrayal. um, or your child can learn meridian-based medicine, or you can learn meridian-based something as a hobby, okay. But then maybe you study it by someone Venusian, then you discover that you're closer, you're neighbors. They interfere in your daily routine more than you've expected. That's the point. And your house has to grow, expand as a result of that. More so than you planned. And this addresses a wound you had around, okay, Mars in the sixth house, around work, pets, maybe taking care of pets, and your health. It's affecting your health. Maybe your child is having a baby, maybe your child is moving in with you and disrupt your daily routine. Maybe somebody you met as a you met them as a hobby. It's also the house of romance. So maybe you're trying to move in together, or you date someone in your neighborhood, and your house has to grow in space because of that, or your belief around how living together should be like, or your upbringing is affecting the way it is. Again, if you're starting to date right now, not good skies for that. But if you have already been dating and it's just a patch in your affair, do not commit at this time. But also, um, okay, understand that you're the person that you have been erotically involved with or romantically involved with, is perhaps not betraying you on purpose, or you're not betraying them on purpose. And like, if you're thinking to move in together, don't. And they, like, somebody might feel betrayed because they thought that you would stand for them in this situation, but like, you need space, okay, something like that. Because Aries, fourth house is about divisions. Mars was a division, and Jupiter increases that division, so it can feel like you need more space in your life. Ascendant Aquarius. So this is the last ascendant, not least. Saturn in your first house, about to leave your first house. Newman in your second. Saturn is about to enter your second house. So say goodbye to worrying about your physical condition. Say hello to a reality check in how you make your money, how you spend your money, and how you see how and your values in praxis, how to apply your value or how you value yourself. Okay. Sedna is second, third, fourth, fifth. Sedna is in your fourth house. Venus in your second house. Somebody Venusian is affecting how you value yourself, what you spend your money on, how you make your money. It could be some Venusian figure from home, okay? Your mother, your sister, your spouse. Um, but your worldview, religious practice that you begin now, uh, might be at odds with the people around you. So you have to accommodate. If you start in a spiritual practice, it's your daily routine, or even practice in meditation, okay? It can be like your meditation, you are alienating people. Because the ruler of Venus is Jupiter, so it's kind of intricate. Is it you doing that? Is it the Venus person doing that? Is the Venus person's practices affect you? Daily routine. Um, you might get to develop a certain skill, Martian skill. Um, and then think, okay, you have to become resilient about what how you make your money, how you spend your money, how you value yourself, what are your values, because it's going to be tested in praxis. Let's say, Pisces, let's say I value um, art, I value artistic expression, I'm going to be a painter. And then, AI. Shit happens. Okay? It doesn't, now you can accommodate. Doesn't mean that you start, if you need to be creative, you will be creative, or Saturn will kill you if you don't do that. Saturn is dead. Okay? If you're not being creative, Saturn will kill you. Simple as that. But Saturn can also mean you need to find a way to make a living being an artist. If you're a creative endeavor, Venus here, maybe you're a singer, and you develop your skill. So I can say, okay, it's very good. You must do this. At the same time, you must find a way to be profitable as a vocalist, as a singer. How do you do that? Practice. Put it to practice. Okay, put it to practice. You feel like I can't fucking breathe with this stress. It's like, well, like we're gonna have to find a way. And Jupiter, the ruler of your second house, is about expansion. Saturn is about contraction. So think about breathing. Okay, the exhale, contraction of the lungs. Inhale, expansion of the lungs. There's a vacuum. Lungs expand, lungs contract. And you're gonna, and through the breathing, you can find your voice, and you can find a way to express your voice and be in a good. I've been asking. Saturn is about to enter my first house, and many times I have manifested to be in good balance of expansion and contraction. And now I think about it in terms of Jupiter and Saturn. Okay, so good breathing, good cardio, sixth house cardio help your lungs breathing, but it also affects the heart cardio. So maybe I'll begin in, maybe I'll be doing running. I don't know. Um, Anything more I can say about you? Yes, expansion and contraction. Expenditure, debt. Saturn is debt. Okay? The beginning that you're having now is going to meet challenges that might cause you to be in debt. Debt, you need to think about debt. And if this is the case for you, then I have a story for you. My first degree was only achieved when I agreed to get into debt. I tried to do scholarships. I tried to do, and you know what? I did get a scholarship, but only after I got into debt. I did not agree to take debt. I worked at a credit card company. I did not have a credit card. I worked for a bank. I would take all the money. Like for the credit card was belonging to a bank, they forced us to open a bank account Okay, it's just financial violence to do it in all the banks in Israel. I don't know how is it worldwide. It's financial violence by like by inherently as you begin to work, you must open a bank account by their bank. All otherwise you won't get your salary. It's financial violence. Um, so take that money from that bank and put it, in a family account. Say, I don't want that. Like I have family members running our finances. They're an accountant. Why do I need that for? I have an accountant for free. I don't need to open it in your bank. Like it's not how I ran my business back then. Okay, you can see the trouble and the difficulties today. Credit score. Okay, maybe I would take the credit and I would act differently if they would tell me about credit score. Maybe not. Okay, maybe I would do activism. I would more likely to do activism about that. But and I could not get money, even though I was working and making quite good money. I could not get money to and time to allocate for studies of a first degree. I have Saturn in my ninth. Then financial crisis. Then at first they did not, sixth house. I have Aquarius 12th house, so mental health. Um, I was not acknowledged for physical problems that I had, even though I wanted to work. It all started. I said, I don't want to sign unemployment, find me a job. They say, can't stand on your feet, you can't do this, you can't do that. Go to, the welfare and see if a doctor can appraise your situation, because I did not agree to sign unemployment. I said, I want a job. And I left a freaking, credit card company. Okay, I was entitled to get quite some money because I was moving to another place. So I was entitled to get that money. It was not, and the situation was so that I was not acknowledged for the physical challenges that I had. Eventually, I had a mental breakdown, and that's how I got to be acknowledged by the welfare that gave me funding for a degree. And then I got a scholarship for the place that I would live. We would do volunteering while studying. I open apartments, we do volunteering while studying. And only when I got into debt, now how I got into that debt was we had no money. I was working the best jobs, but still didn't provide for me in the family. And I was like, it doesn't matter that these are my parents. Like if I was a single mom, it would be the same financial situation. If I'm working the best of jobs, there shouldn't be a reason that I should not be able to buy me a meal after work. If I need to relax off and not be stressed when I come home, I want to be a good civil person. Or if I want to buy me coffee at the beginning of the day, like there should be no reason. If I'm working for a high-tech company, if I'm working for the best companies in the market, I should not be bothered about my cup of coffee in the morning or my pasta in the night. And I should be right. Um, and we didn't have money. And so I had to take a loan to pay my rent when I was working 2 or 3 jobs. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Again, the F word. What the fuck is going on? Eventually, I was acknowledged in the mental health, you know, because there was financial crisis. But I only agreed to that because my psychologist at the time, he said, you deserve funding for a first degree. I said, no, they will never acknowledge me. They didn't acknowledge my feet problem. What do you want? And that never happened. But then it became so much so that I had to do this. There was a debt to one of the family members, and I came there, and I was just on the verge of outdoing myself. And they said, you must apply, try to apply yourself for a mental situation. And so I said, okay, I will try to do that. And only then, but that included me making certain purchases that could no longer be accounted for. So I was trying to take their weird pills. So only when I got into debt did I get not only funding for my degree, but I also found a scholarship for the housing, because they would just fund the degree. And, they could help with a bit of housing thing. But I said, I want if I can do a scholarship and I can get an apartment, then I'll try to do that. Like, I don't want to rely on welfare on everything. And then I worked and so on, like being an English teacher, private English teacher. And so All of that together helped me with my degree. And why am I giving this example to you? Because Saturn is about to enter your second house. Second house could be your business. It can be the way you make money. Saturn, it can be agriculture, it can be crystals, it can be minerals, it can be dedication, but it can also be debt. If you might have to take a loan to start your business, and this may be the case for you, that this is fated. You have to take this loan. You have to take this obligation, this, to create this karma, or you have to do this karma and you have to pay this karma. If you ask what about, the debt that I took, then eventually I paid for 4 years, and then they had a law that if you're limited, if you haven't increased your ability to pay, they wipe it off. So not only did I get the first degree, I got nearly a second degree, and then the debt was wiped off, because it was illegal debt. Yeah, the judge that wiped it off, and I had a good experience with the juristic system. He said, you have no idea how many people I meet on a daily basis that were prescribed certain pills, did certain purchases, and now they show up for this, and they very much appreciated that I did not try to fool them, or just, I just came as I am, wearing the best clothes that I had, and usually people do the opposite in these cases. So unfortunately, I was also Me Too veteran, so that was why it was eventually wiped out. Because, like, my expectation was that I'm going to do the first degree, then I'm going to do the second degree, then of course I'm going to get paid. Like, I'll have everything that I need, and the situation will change, and then I will be able to work, and make and make actual money, and have all the, like, everything I need to get the best jobs. But Me Too came in the way, and that's just life. I'm recovering from CPTSD, but I had that debt wiped off. I'm telling you this story because when Saturn enters your second house, okay. For me, it was a Saturn return when I began my studies. But when Saturn enters your second house, you might have debt coming in. It doesn't mean that you're making bad decisions with money. You could be the most debt-hating person, okay? It doesn't mean that you're making bad decisions with money. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy. It doesn't, I don't know, that you're not good enough in your skill to make money. It just means that something requires time for you to resilient up, and to develop your skill. So you might need to be put something in practice, and it might cost money. You might open a business, and the first few years, the first 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you're in debt until you start seeing returns. Right? When I'm doing these videos, okay, nobody pays me a penny. I'm still having to rely on government. Okay. So nobody pays me a penny, but I'm putting in the work. So out of corpus of work, maybe I'll have views, maybe I'll have whatnot. Right now I'm not close to the ideas of readings, but I'm not actively taking readings or inviting people to get a reading for various reasons. And so there is this stage where you're dedicating, you're putting in the work, and you're not seeing the cash. It doesn't mean that because Saturn can get you to feel anxious or self-critical about your value, okay? Or it can put your values to test. One of my values was no debt, zero debt policy, okay? And I worked for a credit card company. I said, I don't see a reason why, and I still think like that, I don't see a reason why I should not buy land with cash, why I should not buy a house with cash, why I should not buy a car with cash. I don't see a reason for that. I don't see a reason why I should not be, innovative enough to have a business based on, on innovation that makes cash than a business based on debt. I should not see. The only time I agreed to get in debt was when studies was involved, and I was like, nothing. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to write a check. He doesn't have a coverage. I'm going to get into uni because I'm entitled to study. Okay, that was the only thing that that got me to get a credit card eventually at that time. And then I got in debt, and then I got funding for studies. So even if you have a zero debt policy, which you're not, which you might like idealize, um, so this could be one way it works for you. Okay, you can have a zero debt policy and you find yourself in debt. Okay, doesn't mean that you're wrong. Just life has other plans for you. Okay? The opposite side of it, because you have second house Pisces, rules by Neptune, rules by Jupiter, you might be over optimistic about taking a loan. This is your second house, it's not your eighth. Okay? Your eighth house, okay, if I look to Saturn in my eighth house before I started my studies, where I was forced into debt, um, it was like get in debt or die, or do be a torture to everyone around you because you're just pitiful and sad and bitter from life, and you know what. So this the opposite side is that you can be idealizing your ability to return debt. Now I'm giving you contradicting information. And again, I'm playing the Venus, right? I'm a Venus, I'm Sun and Venus in Taurus, so I could be the Venus person for you. Okay, I'm not intending to betray you. I'm just trying to think of all the options, and you might feel betrayed by listening to this, but because I might be telling you, listen, you're idealizing debt. You think, you know what? Maybe you're thinking of buying real estate, and you're being scammed. You're being presented. You're gonna take money from the bank and you're going to invest it, and your tenants are going to pay your rents. Maybe you've been listening to one of these shorts, and here comes this Venus person and tells you, boy, oh boy, what tenants do you think are going to pay your rent? People are being evacuated by the day. Who's going to pay your rent? The bank is going to take your money. It's going to take your house. It's going to take that tenant out. It's going to take you out because you don't have wealth. You got into debt about his house. They're going to take everything. You and your tenants are gonna be, sitting at the parking lot, exchanging ideas of how to get out of it. So you could be idealizing something, and in this case, you can be scammed to take a loan, scammed to take debt. Uh, and you could be scammed by a Venus person. Okay, maybe Venus person, maybe sister, maybe this, maybe that. Not on purpose. Okay, maybe they say, oh, this is a good deal, this is a good deal, this is a good deal. You feel left out, then you cold. Okay, the betrayal of Sedna, while it can be intentional, cruel, it can also simply mean that somebody is having big ideas and they're not aware of the implication, the reality check. Saturn in the second is going to put it's going to put that reality check to the test. So if you're starting to take a loan, if you're thinking about taking a loan right now, the skies is not favorable. So that sounds contradicting to my previous advice. No, it's not. Okay, if you're the type of guy, if you're the type of guy, girl, or person that the loan is fated to be in debt, is fated for, it's just going to be a fated event, just going to bring that in. It's just that. However, if you're in a situation, this is a good sign for you. If you're ideating, if you're thinking, I'm going to take a loan, I'm going to buy this property, and my tenants are going to pay the rent, then you better be listening to me than to anybody tells you that your tenants is going to pay the rent. If this is not money you're able to get rid of, it's not going to be there for you. Nobody's going to pay rent. Nobody's going to pay your loan. Nobody's going to pay a loan. Okay? Nobody. Not Section 8, not Section 9, not Section 12, not Section this, not Section that. Nobody. Okay? If you ain't got the money, don't invest the money that you ain't got. You're not running your money through a trust. If you hear this, you're not running your money through a trust. Okay? Trump runs his money through a trust. Kawasaki, Kioski, whatever runs his money through a trust. You're not running your money through a trust. You're running your money on your name. You take a loan on your name. The bank takes your name, takes your credit score because it's yours. Takes your property, evacuate you and your tenants. Y'all gonna be left out in the cold. Who's gonna pay the price? You're gonna pay the price. Okay. And it doesn't mean that that Venus person coming up with this, hey, let's invest in here, let's invest in there. Maybe it's your family member. Let's do this, let's do that. They're idealists, they're creative, this, we're gonna take a loan, we're gonna buy this property, we're gonna open a studio, and we're gonna this, we're gonna, no. Okay? If that entails taking a loan, your money's not in it. And they might feel betrayed. Or you might try to convince them to do that. And they'll betray you, say, my money's not in it. You say, but I want to be an artist, I want to be a painter. Good, wonderful. If I can afford that, then I will help you. But if you tell me to risk my money, that I can be evacuated, I don't have money, ask me to take a loan, I'm not in it. And you can feel betrayed. Okay, maybe that's the case for you now. Okay, you absolutely must paint, you absolutely must do this, and you absolutely must not idealize getting in debt and so on and so on. Definitely not involve your family members in the financial situation you're getting in. Okay, I wanted to paint, I didn't have the money to buy canvas, so I went to the yard and I took some stones and I started making spirals with the stones, and I started making art with the sand, and I started doing all that. Okay, you can do that too. You want to be creative, there are many ways you can be creative. And you have to open your mind creatively. So that urge to do something that would get you in troubles with the bank and would harm your credit score, don't go for it. Whatever you do, don't go for it. Okay, it's a wrap. We did the 12 ascendants. We are 3 hours, 10 minutes. That's the full moon in Pisces. It's not all rosy. It is asking you to grow resilience. Grow resilience. Grow up and clean your room and paint your pictures. Okay? In whichever house it's at. And understand, do something creative about meridian stuff. Like, I'm definitely thinking about calling in Sedna, maybe painting, maybe doing some stuff in the sand if I can afford a canvas at the time, and so on and so forth. So yes, this is full moon in Pisces. Not the rose-colored glasses that you're being offered by some astrologers that need to cut something into 30-second segments. And then they have to, the medium is the media. The media is the medium, and then you have to face that. Just look deeper into the intricacies, and if you are experiencing this new moon as something less than happy, jolly, dreamy, you're not imagining. Okay, it's just the sky. It's not, it's not you, it's the cosmos. I was Shirley Youngblood with Spirit of Matter, and I will see you in my next Spirit of Matter episode. Thank you for tuning in.